Hello everyone, online students, you are also very welcome. I hope everyone's doing well. Now, we had covered 80 questions in your handout number 1, colonization of India. We'll be continuing from question number 81 onwards. Question 81. Which of the following is one of the reasons for considering the Charter Act of 1833 important for India? A. It banned propaganda by Christian missionaries. Is this correct? No. In fact, since 1813, the official policy of the company's government had been to promote Christian missionary activities in India. Okay? So this is incorrect. Number 2, it emphasized industrialization in India. This is also not correct. 1833 Act represented the phase of industrial capitalism reach its maturity, its full stage of development, its peak. Okay? So emphasis was on industrialization where? In India or in England? In England, and therefore promoting industrialization in India would have been counterproductive because it would have created a rival industry in India, right? So British wanted to prevent that. So the statement should rather have been that it discouraged industrialization in India. Okay? Thirdly, it made a financial allocation for the education of Indian people. Yes. What was the specific provision over here? 1813 में 1 lakh rupees per annum was to be set aside for the development of education among natives in India. And it approved the development of a railway system in India? No. So this is incorrect. Okay? So correct answer is C. Next question. Which of the following led to the introduction of English education in India? Charter Act of 1813, General Committee of Public Instruction 1823, Orientalist and Anglicist controversy. Is it 1 and 2 only, 2 only, 1 and 3 only, or all 1, 2 and 3? देखो, Charter Act of 1813 set aside a sum of 1 lakh rupees per annum for the development of education among natives in India. Okay? So this is going to be the starting point for the beginning of a discussion that what should be the medium in which Indians should be instructed, should be educated. Should it be the classical media, namely Sanskrit, Persian, Arabic, or the modern vernaculars Hindi, Urdu, Gujarati, Hindustani, Bengali, Marathi, etc. or should it be English medium? Okay? So this question was raised for the first time in 1813. In 1823, the General Committee of Public Instruction was set up specifically for debating this issue, that what should be the medium of instruction. And within this General Committee of Public Instruction, two groups emerged, the Orientalists and the Anglicists. Orientalists, what did they want to promote? They wanted to promote traditional education in India. In which languages? In the classical Indian languages. Okay? Anglicists wanted to promote modern education, Western education in India. In which language? In the English language. Ultimately, Macaulay के under this General Public Committee on Public Instruction, it had a meeting. The minutes of those meetings are known as the Macaulay minutes. And which side did Macaulay favor? Orientalist or Anglicist? Anglicists, right? So that is what resulted in the ultimate introduction of English education in India. So correct answer क्या होना चाहिए यहाँ पर? All three were involved. ठीक है? Answer is D, 1, 2 and 3. Next question, number 83. Regarding Wood's dispatch, which of the following statements are true? Grants in aid system was introduced. Establishment of universities was recommended. English as a medium of instruction at all levels of education was recommended. Select the correct code. Is the first one correct? Online students, you can also participate. What is the correct answer? Is the first one correct? Yes. So for the first time, the Woods Dispatch said that the system of grants in aid to institutions being run by private individuals should be promoted by the government. So one is correct. Second one, establishment of universities was recommended. Yes, in 1856, the Woods Dispatch recommended the establishment of universities. 1850 and 1854 में, and in 1857, in keeping with the recommendations of the Woods Dispatch, 3 universities were set up. कौन से? Bombay, Madras, and Calcutta. BMC. The third one, English as a medium of instruction at all levels of education was recommended. This is incorrect. Why? It recommended English education exclusively only at the higher level. ठीक है? Primary level पर vernacular education, secondary level पर also vernacular education but with a bridge course in English. तो एक English language का subject introduce कर दिया जाएगा, and then exclusively English education at the higher level. So correct answer is A, 1 and 2 only. Question number 84. Consider the following statements regarding Wood's Dispatch of 1854. Number 1. It recommended English as the medium of instruction for higher studies. Yes. Number 2. It laid stress on female education and vocational training. Also yes. Why on vocational training? By the 1850s, the Industrial Revolution of Britain had started to heat up, and the British were looking at India as a new avenue of British capital investment. They wanted to invest money in India for the development of the railways, for construction of roads, bridges, ports, and other connectivity infrastructure. For that, what is going to be required? Skilled workers are going to be required. Okay? So that is why they wanted to spread vocational education in India. Why the stress on female education? Not necessarily. One of the other important ideas behind this Woods Dispatch was to westernize India, to make Indians ready consumers of British products. Now, one section of the population, if it was secluded from public sphere, from the public space, it was going to be very difficult for the Indian society to emerge from its traditional mindset, right? And that is why female education was also to be stressed upon over here. Is this clear? So correct answer क्या होगा? Both 1 and 2. C. Question 85. The aim of education as stated by the Woods Dispatch of 1854 was A. The creation of employment opportunity for native Indians. B. The spread of Western culture in India. C. The promotion of literacy among the people using English medium. Or D. The introduction of scientific research and rationalism in the traditional Indian education. बताइए. D. The introduction of scientific research and rationalism in the traditional Indian education. Achha. Anybody else? Spread of Western culture primarily. So the idea was westernization of India through spreading mass education. Okay? Next question 86. Which one among the following acts for the first time allowed Indians, at least theoretically, to entry to higher posts in British Indian administration? कल बताया था ना, एक टेबल बनाई थी. Which act provided that there shall be no discrimination against the recruitment of Indians in the higher civil services? 1833. So that act, at least theoretically, made Indians eligible for higher service. Okay? So correct answer is B. Number 87. Consider the following committee or commissions regarding development of education during British colonial rule: Hartog Committee, Sadler Commission, Hunter Commission, Raleigh Commission. We have to arrange them in the correct chronological order. So, जो Hartog Committee है, it was established in 1929 to make recommendations for the improvement of education, especially at which level? At the primary level. Okay. Sadler Commission, also known as the Universities Commission, was set up to make recommendations regarding the improvement of education at the university level. And what was the recommendation it made? That intake into the universities should be slowed down. It felt that the quality of education was getting diluted because of the intake of a large number of undeserving students. Okay? So it recommended intake should be slowed down, the number of graduates should be reduced, and further changes would have to be made at the primary educational level. Because of the mushrooming of substandard schools and substandard teachers, education levels on the whole were falling down, and they recommended that focus should be on quality rather than quantity when it comes to primary education. This was established in 1917. The Hunter Education Commission, established during the tenure of Lord Ripon in 1882, recommended that the responsibility of primary and secondary education should be taken away from the provincial government and should be given to the newly set up local governing bodies, municipal corporations, district boards, university boards, etc. And the Raleigh Commission, established during Curzon's tenure in 1904, in 1902, gave the recommendation that in universities focus should be on what? Education or politics? Should not be on politics, should be on education exclusively. And this was in response to the rising wave of nationalism in university campuses. On the basis of this, its recommendations, Curzon introduced the Indian Universities Act of 1904, which was one of the other important factors behind the Swadeshi movement. ठीक है, तो करेक्ट क्रोनोलॉजिकल ऑर्डर क्या हो गया यहाँ पर? 3, 4, 2, 1. That is D. 3, 4, 2, 1. Next question. 88. Who was the author of the book History of British India? Published in 1817, it famously divided Indian history for the first time into 3 ages. कौन से? Hindu age, Muslim age and the British age. Now you understand why this is controversial. And किसके दिमाग की उपज थी है? कौन सा वाला मिल? बाप या बेटा? जय माता दी हो जाएगा यहाँ पर. अच्छा, in such a situation जहाँ पे when you are confused between two options, should you attempt it or should you not attempt it? क्या लॉजिक है? 50-50 है. अगर किस्मत खराब हुई और 5 ऐसे क्वेश्चंस अटेम्प्ट किए हैं तो भी 5 में से एक तो ठीक हो ही जाएगा ना, तो नुकसान बहुत ज्यादा नहीं होगा. देयर स्कोर इज गोइंग टू गेट इवेंड आउट, राइट. अगर किस्मत चमक गई तो फायदा ज्यादा हो सकता है. बट इफ द इक्वेशन वाज अ लिटिल बिट डिफरेंट, दैट यू आर कंफ्यूज्ड आउट ऑफ 3 की एक करना चाहिए, तो वहां पे हाथ लगाना चाहिए उसको या नहीं लगाना चाहिए? नहीं लगाना चाहिए. ठीक है. क्यों? अपनी किस्मत के ऊपर इतना भरोसा नहीं होना चाहिए. किस्मत आपकी इतनी जोरदार होती तो यहाँ पे अभी तक स्ट्रगल नहीं कर रहे होते. ठीक है. तो करेक्ट आंसर ओवर हियर इज सी, जेम्स मिल. बाप जेम्स मिल है, बेटा जेम्स स्टुअर्ट मिल है. ठीक है. मैं बता कैसे याद किया था. एक चूहे वाली फिल्म आई थी ना, स्टुअर्ट लिटिल. हाँ, तो लिटिल उसमें था तो आई थॉट कि लिटिल लिटिल मतलब बेटा होगा ये. ठीक है. तो दैट वाज द एसोसिएशन. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन 89. सोशल रिफॉर्म्स गवर्नर जनरल, बताना है कि कितने करेक्टली मैच्ड हैं. 1 ओनली, 2 पेयर्स ओनली, 3 पेयर्स ओनली और ऑल? कौन कौन से? और abolition of slavery, एलिनबरो, ह्यूमन सैक्रिफाइस बैन, कौन कोई और? इट वाज द फर्स्ट लॉर्ड हार्डिंज, ठीक है, 1844 टू 1848 में हार्डिंज गवर्नर जनरल था. ही वाज द वन who passed a regulation banning the practice of human sacrifice prevalent in among which section? इंसान की बलि चढ़ाना, बच्चे की बलि चढ़ाना. ट्राइबल्स, गोंड्स primarily of central and eastern India, ठीक है. तो it was Hardinge the first. Abolition of Slavery Act passed in 1843 during the tenure of Ellenborough, ठीक है. This is correct. Ellenborough का tenure 42 से 44, right in the middle. 1843 में Abolition of Slavery Act. Religious Disabilities Act passed by Dalhousie 1856 में Religious Disabilities Act. What was the provision over here? Removal of religious disabilities on converted persons. Those who convert from Hinduism to other religions, primarily Christianity, would not be automatically disinherited, or this could not be the grounds for their disinheritance by their fathers. ठीक है? So this is also correct. Widow Remarriage Act डलहौजी ने प्रपोज किया था, कैनिंग ने एनफोर्स किया. तो ड्राफ्टिंग एटसेट्रा हैपेंड व्हेन डलहौजी वाज स्टिल गवर्नर जनरल. इट्स enactment took place when Canning arrived in India. (1856) में. So 1 and 4 are incorrect. Only 2 pairs are correct. Next question, number 90. Arrange the following in the chronological order of their implementation. The first, Factory Act, Vernacular Press Act, Parliamentary Reforms, Cornwallis Code. सबसे पहला Cornwallis Code, introduced by Cornwallis in 1793. ठीक है. इसके बाद the Vernacular Press Act, one of the controversial acts of Lytton, enacted in the year 1878. Then the Indian Factories Act, first Factory Act of 1881, and parliamentary reforms 1909. ठीक है. करेक्ट आंसर क्या हुआ? 4213. 4213. Answer is A. Next question. Which of the following reforms or works were done by Dalhousie? Telegraph Department, decentralization of administration, establishment of Public Works Department, establishment of Department of Public Instruction. आंसर क्या है इसका? 1, 3 and 4. That is the correct one. So Telegraph Department Indian Post and Telegraph Act के through in 1854 establish होता है. On the basis of the recommendations of the Woods Dispatch of 1854, he establishes Public Works Department in every province of India. ठीक है, British Indian province, हर province में. Before this, there was no separate department in the government of India or in the government of the presidencies for civil public work. जितना भी public work होता था, that was the responsibility of the military member in the Governor General's Executive Council. So all infrastructure was an extension of military infrastructure earlier. For the first time it was separated and Public Works Department established हुए. अच्छा, establishment of Department of Public Instruction Once again, on the basis of the recommendations of the Woods Dispatch, he established separate departments of public instruction or education in every province. Okay, so in every province. Why is this one incorrect? Decentralization of administration. Yeah, because at this point of time, focus was not on decentralization, rather it was on informant of the British government's writ in India. They wanted to create a stronger state, not a decentralized state. The bid for decentralization is going to start when? After the revolt of 1857, and the first step is going to be taken during the tenure of Canning, with the passage of which act? The India Councils Act of 1861, which for the first time is going to give separate legislative powers back to the provinces. So, Imperial Legislative Council is going to be created and provincial legislative councils are also going to be set up. All these powers had been taken away in 1833, they are now going to be restored. This is incorrect. एक मिनट, हाँ क्या बोल रहे थे? एजुकेशन के लिए थे, डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ पब्लिक इंस्ट्रक्शन. नेक्स्ट, या रिपन, बट रिपन केम लेटर ना 1880 में, तो मतलब उसके बाद ज्यादा डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन होता जाएगा. देन in 1919 for the first time legislative devolution is going to take place. 1935 for the first time the concept of an all India federation is also going to be floated. Okay, so progressively after 1857 the British government of India started becoming more and more decentralized in nature. Match these acts with provisions. Charter Act of 1813 क्या होना चाहिए इसका? Companies trade monopoly in India was abolished. Regulating Act, sure. बोर्ड ऑफ कंट्रोल किसने एस्टैब्लिश किया? अच्छा ये बताओ. पिट्स इंडिया एक्ट. Regulating Act, companies directors were asked to present to the British government all correspondence and documents pertaining to the administration of the company. Okay, so government now started to become involved in the administration of India for the first time. B का 4 and C का 3. ठीक है, the power to govern was transferred from the East India Company to the British Crown through the Act of 1858. So 2, 4, 3, 1. Correct answer A. Number 93. Lord Lytton is not associated with which of the following? The Strachey Commission, Arms Act, Vernacular Press Act, or Ilbert Bill? Ilbert Bill. When did the Ilbert Bill? When was the Ilbert Bill drafted? 1883 में, during the Governor Generalship of Ripon, not Lytton. So these are all correct. All three were established in or enacted in 1878. Strachey Commission, also known as the first famine commission, right? So a huge famine was affecting Deccan for 2 years, so 1876 to 1878. Finally, the government was kicked into action because of the huge criticism it invited from both the Indian middle class as well as the Western middle class. Because at this point of time, when the people around Pune in the Deccan region were dying in their lakhs, the British government was busy throwing a huge party in Delhi. 1877 में क्या करा रहे थे? Delhi दरबार करवा रहे थे. So under pressure from the media, both Indian and British media, they established the first famine commission under Richard Strachey, the Strachey Commission. ठीक है? Arms Act 1878 में, what did it provide for? It imposed licensing requirements for Indians to bear arms, to own or purchase arms. And the Vernacular Press Act, also known as the Gagging Act, it proposed to put restrictions on vernacular newspapers. Okay? So all three were controversial. Next, number 94. Which of the following statements about the first Indian Factory Act passed in 1881 is or are correct? Number 1. The act dealt primarily with the problem of child labor. This is correct. And second, the act laid down that children between 7 and 12 years of age would not work for more than 9 hours a day. This is also correct. Okay? Children below the age of 7 should not be employed in hazardous industries, but they could be otherwise employed. ठीक है? तो these were मतलब बहुत mild से इसमें reforms suggest किए गए थे. Both are correct. Number 95. Which of the following items was/were included in the home charges? Interest payments, military training expense, salaries and allowances to Indians. देखो, home charges refer to expenses borne by the government of India on behalf of the government of Britain. ठीक है? That would include repayment of the interest taken by the British government for loans, for money that was to be invested for the development of infrastructure in India. For example, railways के development के लिए, ports के expansion के लिए, etc. So repayment of loans interest servicing, further salaries and pensions of British civil servants in India. Further, the salaries, pensions and expenses of the Secretary of State for India and his council, India Council. Expenses made by the home government for procurement of military equipment and supplies from British suppliers for equipping the British Indian Army. ठीक है? तो इसको मिलिट्री स्टोर्स बोल देते हैं. Is this clear? Then the training expenses of the British Indian Army. Logistical costs of military deployment of British Indian Army soldiers. जितना भी इंडिया में मिलिट्री एक्सपेंडिचर ब्रिटिश कर रहे हैं, ऑल दिस वाज पार्ट ऑफ होम चार्जेस. इसमें क्या नहीं दिख रहा है आपको? सैलरीज एंड एक्सपेंसेस ऑफ इंडियंस. ठीक है, व्हाई? बिकॉज दिस वाज रूटीन एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव expenditure. The money that was being given to the Indian servants of the British government of India, would it go to Britain or would it remain in India? It would remain in India. So this was not a form of expense borne by the government of India on behalf of the government of the UK. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे this is not going to be part of it. बाकी दोनों जो होंगे ये सही है. तो correct answer is C, 1 and 2 only. 1 and 2 only. हाँ, B, 1 and 2. Next question. Which of the following pairs are correctly matched? Name of the author, name of the book. M.G. Ranade, Essays on Indian Economy. R.C. Dutt, Economic History of India. Dadabhai Nauroji, The Poverty Problem in India. And Prithvishwar Chandra Ray, Poverty and Un-British Rule in India. Which of these are correctly matched? Number 1 is correctly matched. M.G. Ranade was one of the moderate critics of the colonial economy of India. This is correct. R.C. Dutt, a Marxist leaning moderate leader and a retired former ICS officer, scientifically carried out a critique of the colonial government in a series of essays called The Economic History of India in 1893. Dadabhai Nauroji's famous work critiquing the colonial economy is Poverty and Un-British Rule in India. And Prithvishwar Chandra Ray, an Indian inventor, scientist and economist, wrote The Poverty Problem in India. ठीक है, ये नीचे वाले जो दो हैं, they have been swapped. So correct answer 1 and 2 only. Next question. Economically, one of the results of British rule in India in the 19th century was, बताइए कौन सा वाला? Did it result in the increase of exports of Indian handicrafts? No, it resulted in the decline of Indian handicraft exports. Growth in the number of Indian owned factories? No, during the 19th century, British actively discouraged Indian factories. Commercialization of Indian agriculture? So this seems valid. And last one, rapid increase in the urban population? No, urbanization is the result of industrialization. So this can not be the case. Commercialization of agriculture was encouraged and the British forced Indians to cultivate cash crops such as opium, sugarcane, indigo, cotton, often against their wishes, in order to do what? Either balance their trade deficit with other countries such as China by supplying opium over there, or to feed the hungrier and hungrier British industries with Indian raw material, agricultural raw material. So answer is C. Number 98. Consider the following statements with reference to the drain of wealth. The drain of wealth was coined by Dadabhai Nauroji in his article England's Debt to India. सही है गलत है? Statement is incorrect. While the term drain of wealth is attributed to Dadabhai Nauroji, ये जो article है England's Debt to India, it was written by Lala Lajpat Rai, and he was one of the earliest Indians who made the case for British reparations for looting India throughout its colonial period. ठीक है, तो फर्स्ट स्टेटमेंट सही हुआ गलत हुआ? गलत हो गया. Second, Indian National Congress officially accepted it in the Surat session of 1907. In the Surat session, what was the most important development that took place? Split. So, is any constructive discussion going to happen? No. So, this statement is also incorrect. Now, the term drain of wealth, while it was defined for the first time, elaborated upon by Dadabhai Naroji in his 1983 book Poverty and Un-British, sorry, 1903 book Poverty and Un-British Rule in India, he had already gotten accustomed to using this phrase, and it was in the Calcutta session of 1896 that the Congress for the first time officially criticized the government's economic policy, blaming it for causing drain of wealth. This was in Calcutta 1896. So which of these are correct? Neither, neither one nor two. Number 99. The British discredited the theory of drain of wealth on what grounds? A. India's foreign trade both in value and volume had greatly increased. B. Revenue receipts from India had greatly improved. C. Availability of luxuries in the country had increased. Or D. There were higher receipts from salt and income tax. A. India's foreign trade had increased both in value and volume. So the idea was that once the Indian critics started accusing the British of causing a systemic drain of wealth, the British scholars started to deny this phenomenon from taking place. They said that how can drain of wealth be happening? Look at the level of material development that is happening in India. We are causing the level of general prosperity to rise among all sections of Indians. We are connecting different parts of India, so much so that Indian exports have increased many fold since the beginning of British rule, especially during the 19th century. However, what is the counter argument? What kinds of exports were increasing? The export of Indian manufactured goods or raw material? Raw material, primarily primary sector goods was increasing. So in the global supply chain, India was at which stage? Low value production or high value production? Low value production. And whatever exports it was making from India, they were being offset by what? By imports. So throughout British rule, India remained in a trade deficit vis-a-vis Britain. India was forced to purchase expensive and substandard British goods, and this resulted in India running a perpetual trade deficit with Britain. Okay, so the correct answer is A over here. समझ में आया है? अच्छा. Number 100. Increasing exports from India led to further drain of wealth because the exports A. did not lead to the growth of India's material wealth. B. were used to meet the home charges and servicing of public debts. C. were further sources of drain of wealth. Or D. all of the above. Answer is all of the above. So I hope this gave you greater clarity on the entire issue of drain of wealth. Right. Now let us move on to the next handout. The next 100 questions. Here we are going to be focusing upon the theme of the Indian response to British colonialism. So first 100 questions, what the British did to India, and second 100 questions, what the Indians started to do to the British, how we responded. तो उसके ऊपर ज़्यादा focus होगा. Number 101. Which of the following factors were responsible for the tribal revolts during British colonial rule in India? A. The introduction of revenue settlements and taxes. Yes. Yes. B. Displacement from ancestral lands due to forest policies. Yes. C. Religious conversion activities by Christian missionaries. Yes. तो correct answer क्या हुआ? All of the above. D. Next question. Which one of the following provided a common factor for tribal insurrection in 19th century? Introduction of a new system of land revenue taxation and land revenue and taxation of tribal products. Yes or no? Yes. Influence of foreign religious missionaries in tribal areas. Yes. Rise of a large number of money lenders, traders and revenue farmers as middlemen in the tribal areas. Yes. And D, the complete disruption of the old agrarian order of the tribal communities. Yes. So all the four options are valid. So how to make a choice in this case? It is asking a common factor for tribal insurrection in India in the 19th century. So what was that single factor which affected all the tribal people who revolted against the British during the 19th century? The disruption of the old agrarian order. ठीक है? So disruption of the old agrarian order would mean British intrusion not only into their economic activities but also their social hierarchies and also political intervention, right? Because land is associated with all three, especially in the tribal case. So correct answer would be D over here. In such a case you have to go for the most appropriate choice जिसका सबसे ज्यादा बड़ा coverage होगा. बत्तख का शिकार देखा है कभी? नहीं, दिखाने नहीं वाला हूँ, बताने वाला हूँ कैसे होता है. तुमको बत्तख का शिकार नहीं, तुमको दूसरा बताना पड़ेगा. मच्छर को कैसे मारते हो? स्नाइपर राइफल से मारते हो या बैडमिंटन खेलते हो उसके साथ? बैडमिंटन खेलते हो, राइट? What is the point that I'm trying to make? That when you have to address a question like this, ज्यादा important क्या होता है? Pinpoint accuracy और broad coverage? ब्रॉड कवरेज इज इम्पोर्टेंट. तो मच्छर मारने वाला स्ट्रेटेजी यूज करना. थोड़ा शाही अंदाज में बताना होता तो फिर बत्तख मारने वाला, अभी मच्छर मारो केवल. ठीक है, बत्तख मारने वाला मेंस में. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन 103. The word Adivasi was used for the first time to refer to the tribal people by which of these leaders? महात्मा गांधी, ठक्कर बप्पा, ज्योतिबा फूले और बी आर अम्बेडकर. आंसर इज महात्मा गांधी. The answer is B. Thakkar Bappa. Now, Thakkar Bappa was a Gandhian closely associated with Mahatma Gandhi, and he was also the first General Secretary of the All India Anti-Untouchability League, which was later renamed as the Harijan Sevak Sangh. ठीक है? He was the first prominent national leader to raise the issues of tribals, and he also played a very important role in what? In the tribal agitation, forest agitation, which took place during the civil disobedience movement. He went to prison multiple times for asking for tribal rights. His position on forest laws was that they should be eradicated and that tribal lands and ownership of tribal resources should be restored to the tribal people. He also warned against the destruction of tribal culture, language and religion due to the activities of Christian missionaries, and he wanted to take the tribal people back to their roots. He was the one who, after independence, as he was member of the Constituent Assembly and he was also a member of the subcommittee that was given the responsibility of looking into the conditions of the depressed classes and tribals. So in this context, after independence 1948 mein, he was the one who for the first time used the term Adivasi to refer to the tribals of India. बप्पा का मतलब क्या होता है? महात्मा गांधी को बापू बोलते हैं, इनको बप्पा, फादर फिगर. एंड who had given this title Bappa to him? Mahatma Gandhi himself who had given it. ठीक है. Next, question number 104. With reference to the nature of peasant movements after 1857, consider the following statements. Peasant struggles were directed towards specific objectives and not colonialism. This is correct. There was a growing involvement of the educated middle class intelligentsia as spokespersons for the aggrieved community. कौन सा peasant movement होता है बंगाल में? Indigo revolt. Does the middle class get involved in this? ये नाम सुना है? नील दर्पण. क्या है ये? It was a play written by Deen Bandhu Mitra, translated into English by Michael Madhusudan Dutt. अब नाम से क्या लग रहा है, ये गरीब तबके से आने वाले लोग होंगे या मिडिल क्लास पीपल? मिडिल क्लास पीपल, इंटेलेक्चुअल्स थे, पढ़े लिखे थे, इंग्लिश भी बंगाली भी जानते थे, राइट? So they became involved. It is true that they increasingly became involved in the interests of the peasant class. The same thing you are going to see in the case of the Deccan agricultural riots as well. Who is going to do the advocacy for that? Pune Sarvajanik Sabha. Prominent members of Pune Sarvajanik Sabha. MG Rana Day, GG Agarkar, etc. So which leaders were they? Were they working class leaders or middle class leaders? Middle class leaders. तो question क्या पूछ रहा है? There was growing involvement of the educated middle class intelligentsia as spokespersons for the aggrieved peasantry. Yes or no? Yes. Thirdly, the territorial reach of the peasant movements was limited. Is this correct or incorrect? So by and large, these were local movements resulting from local and immediate grievances. So this is also correct. Which of these are correct? D, 1, 2 and 3. Question 105. Which one of the following revolts was made famous by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee in his novel Anand Mat? Sannyasi Rebellion. Sannyasi Rebellion affected which portion of India? Bengal, beginning from the 1770s, right? And it has been immortalized by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee in his 1862 novel Anand Mat. Anand Mat, written primarily in Bengali but with certain sections in Sanskrit as well. It very famously consists of a Sanskrit poem dedicated to the notional idea of Mother India. क्या? Vande Matram. ठीक है? So the correct answer is D. Next, number 106. Which among the following events happened earliest? Swami Dayanand Saraswati established the Arya Samaj. Deen Bandhu Mitra wrote Neel Darpan. Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay wrote the Anand Mat. Satyendranath Tagore became the first Indian to succeed in the Indian Civil Services examination. When was the Arya Samaj established? 1875 by Swami Dayanand Saraswati. Where? Founded in Bombay. Later its headquarters was established at Lahore in 1886. Right? Deen Bandhu Mitra wrote Neel Darpan when? 1860. Okay? Was published in 1860, translated into English, and then published, and a company was hired by Reverend James Long for recitals, for performances both in India as well as in England. Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay wrote the Anand Mat in 1882 है, not 62, 1882. And Satyendranath Tagore became the first Indian to succeed in the ICS examination 1861. सबसे पहले क्या हुआ है? B, the publication of the Neel Darpan. Next, question 107. Consider the following statements. This play is accredited with the portrayal of issues faced by indigo farmers of Bengal. Statement 2. India's national song has been taken from this play. With reference to Neel Darpan, which of the statements given above is or are correct? Is the first one correct? This is accredited with the raising the issues faced by indigo farmers. Second one, incorrect. National song has been taken from the Anand Math. Correct answer is A, one only. Number 108. Which one of the following upheavals took place in Bengal immediately after the revolt of 1857? Sannyasi rebellion, Santhal rebellion, indigo disturbances, Pabna disturbances. Indigo disturbances. 1859 to 61. ठीक है. सन्यासी rebellion 1770 to 1820s. So it took place sporadically in different stages. Santhal rebellion immediately before the Great Revolt 1755, 54, 55, and Pabna disturbances 1870. Santhal, हाँ sorry 1854, 55. ठीक है. So the correct answer is C. आगे चले. Number 109. Match the name of the revolt with the place of occurrence. Mopla revolt, Pabna revolt, Eka movement, Birsa Munda revolt. Kerala, Bihar, Bengal, Awadh. Mopla revolt केरला मालाबार में. पाबना रिवोल्ट नॉर्थ बंगाल. एका मूवमेंट अवध. बिरसा मुंडा रिवोल्ट बिहार, प्रेजेंट डे झारखंड, अर्लियर इट वाज बिहार. आंसर इज 1 3 4 2. 1 3 4 2 कौन सा है? ए. नंबर 110. Indigo revolt, Santhal rebellion, Deccan riot, mutiny of sepoys. करेक्ट chronological order में इसको अरेंज करिए. From the earliest to the latest. सबसे पहले Santhal rebellion 1854-55, then the mutiny of sepoys, then Indigo revolt and Deccan riot 1874-75 में. ठीक है. तो करेक्ट आंसर क्या हुआ? 2 4 1 3 D. 1 1 1. Consider the following statements in the context of Rangpur uprisings of 1783. Number 1. This revolt was a backlash to the Ijaradari system of collecting land revenue. Yes. What was the Ijaradari system? कल cover किया था ना? Revenue farming, where the revenue collection rights were auctioned off to the highest bidder. So this had resulted in the exorbitant increase in land revenue demand in the region of Bengal. Who was the Governor General who had introduced the Ijaradari system in Bengal for the first time? Warren Hastings. ठीक है. And it was in reaction against the Ijaradari system that Rangpur uprising had taken place in North Bengal. Second, it set the stage for the introduction of the Zamindari system. Yes. So this Rangpur uprising gave a rude shock to the government establishment, and in order to overcome the problems associated with the Ijaradari system, Cornwallis and John Shore designed the permanent settlement or Zamindari system, also known as the Istamrari Bandobast. Okay. So which of these statements is incorrect? Neither. Correct answer would be D. किसका? इजारादारी सिस्टम का. जमींदारी सिस्टम, also known as permanent settlement. और इस्तमरारी सेटलमेंट और बंदोबस्त। सांथाल इज द नेम ऑफ अ ट्राइबल ग्रुप छोटा नागपुर प्लाटो के रेजिडेंट, मतलब सेंट्रल इंडिया एंड छोटा नागपुर प्लाटो, पार्ट्स ऑफ छत्तीसगढ़ एज वेल एज झारखंड, उस वाले एरिया में। राजमहल हिल्स पढ़ा है ज्योग्राफी में? हाँ, तो उसके अराउंड वाला एरिया जो। नंबर 112, under the permanent settlement of 1793, zamindars were required to issue pattas to farmers which were not issued by many of the zamindars. Which among the following was a reason for this? Was it because the zamindars were trusted by the farmers and farmers never asked for it? Was it because there was no official check upon the zamindars, so zamindars never gave it? Was it because it was the responsibility of the British government and the British government never promptly acted upon this? Or was it because the farmers were not interested in getting patta at all? It is B. There was no official check upon the zamindars. Now, one of the reasons why Cornwallis and John Shore had opted for the zamindari system was because they wanted to reduce the cost of revenue administration. They did not want to spend too much money on a large number of tax collectors. So, instead of collecting tax from lakhs of peasants across Bengal, they wanted to collect tax from a few hundred big zamindars. So, that is why they had not placed any official check upon what the zamindars did within their estates. In fact, most zamindars, especially the big zamindars, were given high sounding titles by the British officials. Titles such as राजा और चौधरी और खान और नवाब एटसेट्रा। ठीक है, तो इन लोगों को अगर राजा की पावर्स दे रखी हैं, तो डू यू थिंक दैट अ ब्रिटिश ऑफिशियल इज गोइंग टू कम लुक थ्रू ऑल देयर अकाउंट बुक्स, see whether all the legal requirements are fulfilled, whether labor is not being mistreated in their estates, or will they leave the zamindars to their own devices? And why did the zamindars not issue pattas to the peasants? Because it was against their interest. Patta hota kya hai? A title deed, right? So in the case of the permanent settlement, because the zamindar was recognized by the company as the owner of the estate, the title deed would not transfer ownership to the peasants, but it would transfer occupancy and cultivation rights to the peasants. At peasant को common usage के लिए वो particular parcel of land उसका legal हक होगा. So they did not want to give this right to the peasants. They wanted to keep the peasants deprived of their rights and powers. So that is why it was against their interest, and because there was no official check, the zamindars rarely gave pattas to peasants. Clear hai? Next, 113. In the context of revenue settlement acts introduced by the British in the 18th and 19th century, which of the following pairs are correctly matched? Zamindari system Northwestern Province, Rayatwari system Madras, Mahalwari system Awadh. First one correct or incorrect? Incorrect. Zamindari system confined to Bengal, Banaras and Northern Madras Presidency, Northern Karnataka में. ठीक है. रैयतवारी सिस्टम मद्रास एंड बॉम्बे प्रेसिडेंसी, एंड महलवारी सिस्टम सेंट्रल प्रोविंसेस, यूनाइटेड प्रोविंसेस, अर्लियर नोन एज द नॉर्थ वेस्ट प्रोविंस, अवध एंड पंजाब. ठीक है, तो स्टेट नंबर 2 and 3 आर करेक्ट, 1 is incorrect. Next, 114. After the Santhal uprising subsided, what was or were the measure or measures taken by the colonial government? Number 1, the territories called Santhal Parganas were created. Number 2, it became illegal for a Santhal to transfer land to a non-Santhal. बताइए. The answer is both 1 and 2. यहाँ पे इशू क्या है थोड़ा समझ लीजिए. See, Santhals were a tribal group located primarily around the Rajmahal hills, ठीक है, in eastern India. So during the colonial period, this was part of the Bengal presidency. ठीक है. Now the British, as they became interested in the expansion of their revenue income, they sought to introduce settled agriculture over here as well. However, Santhals jo the, they were tribals. What kind of cultivation did they usually practice? Slash and burn, shifting cultivation, jhoom cultivation. So the British wanted them to adopt settled agriculture. But this was against the customary practices of the Santhals. They were reluctant to do so. Further, their experience of interaction with outsiders, तो यहाँ पे outsiders सारे हो जाएंगे, whether it is the British officials, police officials, whether it is Christian missionaries, Indian ठेकेदार्स or zamindars, Indian traders, etc. It had been a negative one because they had seen their other compatriots being exploited commonly by these outsiders. So they were quite reluctant. So in order to console them, in order to make them feel secure about it, in 1832, the government demarcated a huge area along the foothills of the Rajmahal Hills known as the Damin-i-Koh. दामिन का मतलब क्या होता है? दामन मतलब स्कर्ट, मतलब जो साड़ी का नीचे वाला पोर्शन होता है, राइट. एंड को इज हिल, पहाड़, जैसे को है नूर, द माउंटेन ऑफ लाइट बोलते हैं, राइट. तो को का मतलब पहाड़ होता है. तो द स्कर्ट्स अराउंड द माउंटेन्स, ये वाला जो एरिया है, इसको इन्होंने बोल दिया दैट दिस इज गोइंग टू बी एन एक्सक्लूसिव सांथाल जोन. And nobody shall interfere in the Santhal usage of this parcel of land. अच्छा, साथ में एक कंडीशन भी लगाया. क्या? That Santhals can do whatever they want to over here, but at least in 1/10 of the total area that has been demarcated for them, they will have to start practicing what? Settled agriculture. Following this, what will happen to the size of the Santhal population concentration in this region? Is it going to remain the same, stagnant? Is it going to decline, or is it going to explode? It is going to explode as Santhals from the surrounding areas also started coming and settling over here. So this resulted in the rapid expansion of Santhal population in the Damin-i-Koh. अंग्रेजों को छोटा नागपुर प्लेटू और राजमहल गारो गैप के बीच में और क्या मिला इस जमाने में? कोल. ठीक है, तो ह्यूज कोल डिपॉजिट्स वर डिस्कवर्ड बाय द ब्रिटिश. दिस बिकेम प्रॉब्लमैटिक. क्यों? क्योंकि अभी अभी ये इलाका सांथाल्स को दिया है. वी हैव प्रॉमिस्ड देम वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू इंटरफियर. But Angrez माने कैसे, when their economic interests were became involved, everything else took a back seat, and therefore the British went back on their promise and started interfering in the internal affairs within the Damin-i-Koh. They started giving out huge coal mining contracts to Bengali and Marwari ठेकेदार्स, उनको ठेकेदार्स बोलते थे लोकल लैंग्वेज में. इन ठेकेदार्स को इंट्रोड्यूस किया. And where do you think the bulk of the manual labor for doing all this mining is going to come from? From among the Santhal population. So coal mines were opened and Santhal exploitation started taking place. Further, this area was becoming more and more populous as more and more outsiders started to come in, and the British saw here a greater opportunity. क्या कि जो प्लेन्स वाले एरिया हैं ऑफ द दामिनी को, दे कैन बी क्लियर्ड, एंड यहाँ पे क्या शुरू कर सकते हैं, सेटल्ड एग्रीकल्चर. तो द ब्रिटिश also began forcibly clearing the forests and introduced settled agriculture. In which presidency was the Damin-i-Koh located? Bengal presidency में. And over here which system was introduced? Land revenue assessment का permanent settlement was introduced. So under permanent settlement, which new middleman is going to emerge in the Santhal region? In zamindars. So permanent settlement and the introduction of zamindars led to the aggravated exploitation of the Santhals. Now the zamindars began to charge exorbitant taxes for them or rents from them, and this pushed them into which trap? The debt trap. So tribal indebtedness के भी शिकार होने लग गए, because of which landlessness became a major issue, and so did bonded labor. All this that was happening, was it not bound to have some sort of a reaction? Yes. क्या reaction होगा? Uprising. 1854-55 Santhal uprising led by the Murmu brothers, Siddhu and Kanhu. दो भाई और थे, चांद and Bhairav, right? And following this, in order to prevent the recurrence of such an uprising, especially after the British received the shock of the Great Revolt of 1857, कुछ substantial changes करे जाएंगे यहाँ पे या नहीं? Yes. तो the Santhal Parganas was created. तो जो दामिनो-को था ना, it was renamed the Santhal Parganas, and stricter provisions were put in place to prevent the transfer of tribal land to any outsider. Is this clear? पक्का? ठीक है. So because of this, both these statements are correct, and the correct answer is C. Number 115, with reference to the history of India, Ulgulan or the Great Tumult is the description of which of the following events? बिरसा मुंडा's revolt of 1899-1900, उसको मुंडा उलगुलन भी बोलते हैं. Next, 116. The Khuntkatti tenure was prevalent in which one of the following regions of India during the British colonial rule? Bundelkhand, Karnataka, Chota Nagpur or Madras Presidency? Khuntkatti system was the system of joint ownership of land. Prevalent primarily among the Mundas of eastern India. तो बताओ अब बुंदेलखंड, कर्नाटका, छोटा नागपुर और मद्रास प्रेसिडेंसी? छोटा नागपुर प्लेटो. ठीक है, आंसर इज सी. हाँ, तो यहाँ पे आइडिया ये था that ownership is going to belong to that clan or that group of families belonging to a personal tribe which was responsible for initially clearing a parcel of land and preparing it for cultivation. तो जिसने भी land को clear किया, prepare किया, that group of families is going to be given ownership. So they are going to be considered the owners. Now, obviously कोई legal recognition लिखा पढ़ी नहीं होती थी. It was a tribal customary memory, generational memory which allowed different clans to lay claims of ownership over different parcels of land. And since all the members of that clan, all the different families which were part of that clan were equal partners in the ownership and cultivation of that land, so wealth inequality ज़्यादा होगी या कम होगी relatively? It was quite low. So although the amount of economic development was not very high, लेकिन जितना भी थोड़ा बहुत होता था, it was equally distributed. So correct answer यहाँ पे है छोटा नागपुर प्लेटो. Now, next 117. The Deccan Agriculturalist Relief Act of 1879 was enacted with which one of the following objectives? A. Restore land to dispossessed peasants. 2. Ensure financial assistance to peasants during social and religious occasions. C. Restrict the sale of land for indebtedness to outsiders. Or D. Give legal aid to insolvent peasants. सब गलत. Correct answer is C. Restrict the sale of land for indebtedness to outsiders. So this act was enacted in the aftermath of which major uprising in the Deccan? The Deccan agricultural riots. ठीक है, 1875-76 में the entire Deccan was consumed, especially the region around Pune was consumed by a series of agricultural riots. Main targets कौन थे? Sahukars. Who were they? Money lenders, right? तो मनी लेंडर्स यहाँ पे ज्यादातर बाहर से आते थे, either from the Jain community or the Marwadi community. And what had they started doing? Because of the high demand of taxes, peasants were often short of money, so they used to borrow money from these disorganized money lenders in the unorganized sector. The rates of interest were exorbitantly high, as high as 25-30% of the principal sum. So even if they were able to somehow repay the principal sum, they were never able to service the interest payments. So result क्या होगा? They fell into the debt trap, and once they are unable to repay their debts, what can the money lender do? He can take away their pattas, their ownership papers, right? And he can take the debtor to court as well, so he can be held legally liable for being for defaulting on the debt. तो नुकसान बहुत ज्यादा हो रहा था. That was the result. तो यहाँ पे Deccan Agriculturalist Relief Act, यहाँ पे आइडिया ये था that we are going to restrict the sale of land for indebtedness to outsiders. If land has to be sold for being unable to repay debt, it must be sold to other people from the same region. एटलीस्ट यहाँ पर लैंग्वेज वाला या रीजन वाला इशू नहीं होगा. इज दिस क्लियर? Next, name of the rebellion, name of leader, we need to match them. Rangpur uprising, Eka rebellion, Santhal rebellion, Kol rebellion. रंगपुर अपराइजिंग में केना सरकार, एका रेबेलियन मदारी पासी, सांथाल रेबेलियन सिद्धू एंड कानू फोर सिद्धू एंड कोल रेबेलियन बुद्धो भगत 3142. आंसर इज डी. रंगपुर रेबेलियन वेयर, बंगाल. व्हेन, भी बताया था ना, इजारादारी सिस्टम के बाद, परमानेंट सेटलमेंट के पहले, दोनों के बीचों बीच 1783. एका रेबेलियन 1921 in the region of Awadh, in the backdrop of which ongoing major national movement? Non-cooperation movement. Santhal rebellion we have just covered, 1854-55, Chota Nagpur Plateau, Rajmahal Hills. And Kol rebellion, once again in the Chota Nagpur Plateau region, 1832. ठीक है, तो ये हो गया क्वेश्चन 118. हाँ, 1832 कोल रिबेलियन. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन, लिस्ट 1 एंड लिस्ट 2, नेम ऑफ लीडर, नेम ऑफ मूवमेंट मैच करना है. टीपू शाह, दूदू मियां, चैत सिंह, टीटू मीर. टीपू शाह was involved with the Pagalpanthi rebellion. Which region was affected? Bengal region was affected. What did this rebellion stand for? It stood for Hindu-Muslim unity and the opposition of British rule. ठीक है, दूदू मियां led the Farezi uprising. ठीक है, unlike the Pagalpanthi movement, which was a syncretic movement, the Farezi movement was a puritanical movement. It wanted to remove the corrupt practices from Islam and purify Islam. So it had led a revolt against both the British and their loyal zamindars, who were primarily Hindus. Chet Singh led the Banaras rebellion and Titu Mir led the Tariq-e-Muhammadiya rebellion. In Nar Kalbelia in Bengal, most famous for constructing a fort made out of bamboo, which proved quite effective, and the British had to bring in a huge cannon in order to destroy this fort. ठीक है, बनारस rebellion circumstances क्या है? You know about the Treaty of Allahabad 1865, following which battle? Battle of Buxar. Through the Battle of Buxar and the Treaty of Allahabad, what had happened to Awadh and its independence? Had it been taken away or had it remained intact? It had remained intact, but British intrusion in Awadh had increased. Why? Because from this point onwards, the British tried to use Awadh as a buffer state between themselves in Bengal and the Marathas down south. ठीक है, so Awadh emerged as a buffer state. Now, one of the other important provisions of this treaty was that 2 districts would be transferred by the Nawab of Awadh to the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II. Do you remember the names of those districts? Allahabad and Kara. And the British required him to stay at Allahabad under their protection. So he was not allowed to go back to Delhi. Okay? Another provision was that the Zamindari of Banaras was to be transferred to one बलवंत राय. पढ़ा है ना ये सब, याद आ रहा है? अच्छा, अब आगे देखो क्या होता है. In 1772 one major development took place which completely shook the politics of Awadh. क्या? Mahaji Rao Scindia invaded Awadh, captured Allahabad and released what? Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II. And restored him upon his rightful seat in Delhi. तो वापस दिल्ली पहुंचा दिया. बदले में शाह आलम II ने क्या किया? He gave the districts of Allahabad and Kara to Mahaji Rao Scindia, the Marathas. Allahabad and Kara were transferred to the Marathas. So, did the British position in Awadh remain secure or had it become a little more dangerous now? Had become a little more dangerous. And as a result, the first Banaras Treaty was signed in 1773. Now, this required the Nawab of Awadh to pay a larger fee for hosting a British subsidiary army in his territory. Okay? Further, some of the districts in the frontier were now to be placed under the control of the company. So, administrative and military control वहाँ पर अब completely company का होगा. Now, Awadh was not only threatened by the Marathas from the south but also by other groups from the west, namely the Afghans, especially the Rohilla Afghans from Rohilkhand. And once the Rohillas saw that the British are now manning the forts that they usually used to target, what are they going to do? Are they going to attack immediately or are they going to wait and watch? They are going to attack immediately before the British are able to consolidate their position on the frontiers. Okay? So this resulted in the Rohilla War of 1774. समझ में आया इतना? अच्छा. Now, because the British felt that even the western regions are not very secure, तो अब ये क्या करेंगे? जो डिफेंस लाइन है ये फर्दर टुवर्ड्स द ईस्ट पुल बैक करने की कोशिश करेंगे कि नहीं? तो दैट इज वेयर बनारस इज गोइंग टू बिकम इन्वॉल्व्ड. तो सेकंड बनारस ट्रीटी आल्सो नोन एज द ट्रीटी ऑफ फैजाबाद was signed between the Wazir of Awadh. By this point of time, Shuja-ud-Daula was dead and power was in the hands of the Grand Wazir and the East India Company. एंड यहाँ पर जो बनारस की जमींदारी बलवंत राय को दी गई थी, अब उसमें चेंजेस कर दिए जाएंगे, which are going to be in the interest of the present day zamindar Raja of Banaras or against his interests? Against his interest, because greater power is going to be transferred to the British. Who was the erstwhile Raja of Banaras? It was Chet Singh. Okay, so this invited the revolt of Chet Singh. Is this clear? तो करेक्ट आंसर क्या होगा? ए का 4, बी का 2, सी का 1 एंड डी का 3. 4, 2, 1, 3. आंसर इज सी. क्लियर है? चलिए, नंबर 120. Consider the following statements in the context of Mopla rebellion. Number 1, Malabar region of peninsular India was the hotspot of this rebellion. Yes. Number 2, the rebellion was contemporary with the non-cooperation movement. Yes. And number 3, it witnessed outstanding Hindu-Muslim unity. Incorrect. It witnessed extreme communal violence, ठीक है, between Hindus and Muslims. So correct answer A. Next question, peasant movement and leader. बाकश्त लैंड मूवमेंट, एका मूवमेंट, मापिला रेबेलियन, अवध किसान सभा मूवमेंट. बाबा रामचंद्र, कुंज अहमद हाजी, मदारी पासी एंड स्वामी सहजानंद सरस्वती. तो दो तो हम ऑलरेडी कवर कर चुके हैं. एका मूवमेंट लीडर मदारी पासी, मापिला रेबेलियन लीडर वरयंकुन्नाथ कुंज अहमद हाजी एंड अली मुसलियार. बाकश्त मूवमेंट, ये आंसर इज बाबा रामचंद्र. मूवमेंट था क्या ये? विच रीजन वाज अफेक्टेड? इट वाज प्रेवलेंट प्राइमरीली इन बिहार. यहाँ पे इश्यू क्या था? तो इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ मेडिवल इंडियन हिस्ट्री, स्पेशली मुगल अग्रेरियन स्ट्रक्चर, आप लोगों ने हो सकता है कुछ टर्म्स सुने हो, दैट इज खुद कश्त, पही कश्त एटसेट्रा, राइट? ऐसे में बाकश्त भी किससे एसोसिएटेड होगा? समथिंग टू डू विद लैंड. ठीक है, बाकश्त लैंड्स वर दोज लैंड्स व्हिच हैड बीन कॉन्फिस्केटेड बाय द जमींदार्स बाय एक्सपेलिंग द पेजेंट्स. तो पेजेंट्स को एक्सपेल कर दिया एंड जमींदार ने उसकी ओनरशिप ले ली. तो जो पेजेंट्स का जो टेन्योर था वो उनसे छिन गया. वो क्या बन गए? बिना लैंड के बे लैंड और बाकश्त हो गए. इज दिस क्लियर? नाउ द मूवमेंट to restore those lands to peasants or to the peasants was led by Baba Ramchandra. Who was he? A prominent Gandhian peasant leader who had returned after serving as an endangered labor in Fiji. तो महात्मा गांधी के तरह ही ये भी एक प्रवासी भारतीय थे. कहां से आए थे इंडिया में? फीजी से आए थे. देन क्या बचता है? अवध किसान सभा मूवमेंट, राइट? अवध किसान सभा मूवमेंट स्टार्टेड बाय स्वामी सहजानंद सरस्वती. तो करेक्ट आंसर इज 1, 3, 2, 4. 1, 3, 2, 4. अवध किसान सभा सेट अप बाय स्वामी सहजानंद सरस्वती इन 1920. एंड जब ऑल इंडिया किसान सभा मूवमेंट इमर्ज हुआ तो द डिफरेंट किसान सभास, तो बिहार किसान सभा, अवध किसान सभा, यूपी किसान सभा, पंजाब किसान सभा, they all came under an umbrella organization known as the All India Kisan Sabha. Who was its president? नहीं, यही स्वामी सहजानंद सरस्वती. ठीक है, 1936 में सेटअप हुआ था. तो initially the All India Kisan Sabha coordinated its actions with the Congress, but as the right within the Congress began clashing with the left within the Congress, and social reforms, especially and economic reforms, especially those related to the interests of the peasants, started to slow down. So, are their loyalties going to remain with the Congress, or are they going to start drifting away from the Congress gradually? They started to drift away from the Congress. Towards whom? Towards the communists. CPI के साथ align करने लग गए अपनी ideology. And as a result, during the Quit India movement, did Swami Sahajanand Saraswati or All India Kisan Sabha participate in that movement, or did it boycott that movement? It boycotted that movement. Does this mean that the All India Kisan Sabha and the communists are not going to lead any peasant movements in the future at all? No, they are just not going to cooperate in any Congress led movement, क्योंकि कांग्रेस को वो क्या मानने लग गए थे by this point of time? A middle class party, a जमींदार party, bourgeois interest को protect करने के लिए. And communists are going to become very active during which stage? During the final stage of independence. 1946 में two powerful movements are going to be brought by them in eastern India. एक है तिभागा movement in Bengal, दूसरा है तेलंगाना अपराइजिंग इन आंध्र प्रदेश, हैदराबाद के अंदर. ठीक है, तो towards, as we move closer and closer to independence, it was becoming apparent that the days of the British in India are numbered, and decision क्या होना था कि आगे पावर किसके हाथ में होगा? Would it be the communists? Would it be the Muslim League? Would it be the Congress? And that is why, what are you going to see? More confrontation against the British, or the national movement cracking along its fault lines and a sort of implosion taking place? A sort of implosion is going to take place. ठीक है, वो बाद में हम कवर भी करेंगे, बट अभी के लिए इतना काफी है. नेक्स्ट 122, कंसिडर द फॉलोइंग स्टेटमेंट्स अबाउट द रंपा रिबेलियन. नंबर 1, दे वर रेजिडेंट्स ऑफ द महाराष्ट्र रीजन. कहाँ के थे? आंध्र प्रदेश, तो कृष्णा गोदावरी डेल्टा के अराउंड मद्रास रीजन में थे, मद्रास प्रेसिडेंसी में. नंबर 2, the main cause of this rebellion was the prohibition of jhum cultivation. This is correct. So the Rampa rebellion was a tribal rebellion led by Alluri Sitarama Raju. ठीक है. Thirdly, the rebel people were called Ramadandu. This is also correct. एक दूसरा मूवमेंट भी था इसी रीजन में हुआ, दैट वाज अ पेजेंट मूवमेंट, चिरलिया पेरेलिया मूवमेंट, राइट. वहां पे भी जो फॉलोअर्स थे, दे कॉल्ड देमसेल्व्स रामडंडू. यहाँ पे भी रामडंडू बोलते हैं. रामडंडू मतलब फॉलोअर्स ऑफ रामा. तो यहाँ पे आपको क्या दिख रहा है? आर यू फाइंडिंग एनी पैरेलल्स विद अदर ट्राइबल मूवमेंट्स दैट केम इन इंडिया? मुंडा रिबेलियन में कौन सा आइडिया दिया गया था? राम राज्य, राइट, दैट वी वांट टू इंट्रोड्यूस राम राज्य. तो यहाँ पे भी सेम कॉन्सेप्ट है. बाद में एट ऑल इंडिया पॉलिटिकल लेवल हु इज गोइंग टू अप्लाई दिस आइडिया? महात्मा गांधी मोस्ट फेमसली उन्होंने बोला ही था कि राम राज लाना है, राइट. तो विच ऑफ दीज इज करेक्ट? डी, 2 and 3. नाउ नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन, with reference to the freedom struggle, which of the following correctly describes the term Diku? The term Diku was used in the Chota Nagpur Plateau region primarily by the Mundas to refer to all types of outsiders, whether it is British officials, whether it is Christian missionaries, traders, ठेकेदार, जमींदार्स, different merchants, etc. आंसर क्या होगा? डी. ऐसे ही नॉर्थ ईस्ट इंडिया में, इन अरुणाचल प्रदेश, outsiders are generally referred to by the term हारिंग. हाँ. मणिपुर में मयंग, ये वाला पता हो गया, काफी न्यूज में भी रहता है. हाँ, चलता भी है. तो मयंग, तो मे बी अ क्वेश्चन माइट बी आस्क्ड जस्ट फॉर योर रेफरेंस. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन, अच्छा मणिपुर में हु आर द टू मेजर कम्युनिटीज जिनके बीच में अभी प्रॉब्लम चल रहा है? कुकीज एंड मेथीज, ये तो आप लोग कवर कर ही रहे होगे ना। अच्छा, नेक्स्ट नंबर 124, he was an Indian revolutionary involved in the Indian independence movement. He became involved in anti-British activities in response to the 1882 Madras Forest Act. Rising discontent towards the British led to the Rampa Rebellion or Maniam Rebellion of 1922, in which he played a major part as a leader. किसके बारे में बात हो रही है? सीताराम राजू, अल्लूरी सीताराम राजू. Number 125, consider the following organizations or movements: All India Kisan Sabha, Ekam Movement, UP Kisan Sabha, Awadh Kisan Sabha. Correct chronological order. बताओ, मुंह से नहीं चलेगा. All India Kisan Sabha 1936, Ekam Movement 1921, UP Kisan Sabha 1918 and Awadh Kisan Sabha 1920. करेक्ट आंसर क्या हुआ? 3, 4, 2, 1 C. 126, who of the following is popularly known for leading the Bardoli Satyagraha? Answer is Sardar Patel, Vallabhbhai Patel. In fact, it was in the context of this satyagraha that he was given the title Sardar by the female part, the women of Bardoli. ठीक है, तो answer is C. Next question, 127. The demand for the Tibhaga peasant movement in Bengal was for. देखो आपको क्लू ना नाम में ही मिल जाएगा. तिभागा, दैट मीन्स 1/3. ठीक है, तो आंसर इज ए. The reduction of the share of the landlords from one half of the crop to 1/3, so that 2/3 could remain with the peasants themselves. कहाँ पे हुआ ये? बंगाल में. When? 1946. यहाँ पे किसका इन्फ्लुएंस ज्यादा था? Was it a Congress led movement or not? No, it was a communist movement. And जहाँ जो region affected हुआ वहां पर later also communist influences are going to remain quite dominant. यहाँ पर भी रंपा वाले रीजन में भी या फिर ये गोदावरी रीजन में भी तो माओइस्ट एक्टिविटीज, नक्सलाइट एक्टिविटीज आर गोइंग टू बिकम quite dominant later on in these regions. तो आंसर यहाँ पे 127 का ए है. नेक्स्ट, the revolt of 1847 is related questions. 128, consider the following assertion and proposed reason. तो assertion है the General Service Enlistment Act became a reason for the revolt of 1857. Correct? Incorrect? Correct. What was the problematic provision of this act? Was it that it modified Hindu customs, declaring that a change of religion did not debar a son from inheriting the property of his heathen father? No. क्या था? Yeah, all the new recruits would have to give an undertaking to the British that they would serve in any region that they are posted, irrespective of whether it is in India or abroad. Why did this create a problem? Because there was a taboo, especially among upper caste Hindus, that foreign travel is prohibited because it would lead to impurity and loss of caste. तो बिरादरी से outcast कर दिए जाते थे ऐसे लोग. ठीक है, तो statement A is correct. The assertion is correct. Reason, it modified Hindu customs, declaring that a change of religion did not debar a son from inheriting the property of his heathen father. Is this statement correct in the scope of General Service Enlistment Act? No. So reason is incorrect. ये किसका प्रोविजन था? Religious Disabilities Act. तो करेक्ट आंसर क्या हुआ? C. A is true, R is false. Question 129. The immediate cause of India's first war of independence was doctrine of lapse by Dalhousie, suspicion about British interference in religion, military discontent, or economic exploitation of India. क्या बोल रहे हो? B या C? Military discontent. So we are talking about immediate factor. Immediate issue क्या है? आपने पढ़ा होगा. Greased cartridges वाला issue. What was the problem associated with it? काउ फैट पिग फैट मिक्स था उसमें. तो बताओ अब क्या होना चाहिए आंसर? बी, सस्पिशन अबाउट ब्रिटिश इंटरफेरेंस इन देयर रिलीजन. ठीक है, नहीं, तो इट वाज part of a huge belief, a big belief system at the general level that the British are actively trying to destroy the religion of Indians and जबरदस्ती या फिर छल कपट करके चीटिंग करके इनको कन्वर्ट करवा लो क्रिश्चियनिटी में, राइट? So that is why it was this fear of a perversion of their religious beliefs that had caused this sense of panic, desperation and helplessness among both the sepoys of the British Indian Army as well as the ordinary citizens. So that was the immediate trigger for it, responsible for it. ठीक है, military discontent जो है, it had been building up for a long period of time. So it was one of the long term factors, right? What were the issues germane to service within the military that were becoming problematic, that were causing resentment? क्या क्या थे? First of all, open racism, right? The Indian soldiers were berated, physically abused by their European superiors on an almost daily basis. इसके अलावा जनरल सर्विस एनलिस्टमेंट एक्ट, इसके अलावा प्रमोशंस में रेस्ट्रिक्शंस, इसके अलावा पे में डिस्क्रिपेंसी, इसके अलावा फॉरेन सर्विस अलाउंस जो भत्ता होता था उसको डिसकंटिन्यू कर दिया गया था, इसके अलावा gradually the conditions for service within the company's army were becoming antithetical to the personal religious beliefs of the sepoys. तो यूनिफॉर्म के regulations कि एक तरह की मूछ कंपलसरी कर दी गई, facial hair of a particular type, ban on the wearing of turbans etc. These things became problematic, right? घर पे लेटर भेजना भेजना भी महंगा पड़ गया था, स्टैंप एक्ट इंट्रोड्यूस हो गया था, पोस्ट एंड टेलीग्राफ एक्ट इंट्रोड्यूस हो गया था, so stamps had become compulsory. So earlier free military post used to be there, so this was an added expense. So these were the long term causes. Immediate cause है suspicion about British interference in their religion. Clear है? Number 130. Which one of the following statements about the revolt of 1857 is correct? A, it was a revolt carefully organized and planned by the Rajas, Nawabs and Talukdars. Can you say this about the revolt? No. In fact, one of the reasons for the failure of the revolt was the poor organization and planning. B, rumors and prophecies did not play any role in its outbreak and spread. This is also incorrect. तो सबसे बड़ा rumor क्या था? पिग फैट और काउ फैट तो रियली में मिलाया गया था, तो रूमर नहीं था. रूमर स्टार्टेड सर्कुलेटिंग लाइक कि अंग्रेज जो मिलिट्री में आटा देते हैं उसमें काउ बोन और पिग बोन का डस्ट ग्राइंड कर देते हैं, राइट? तो उस तरह से अटैक कर रहे हैं. फर्दर 100 years had passed since the battle of Plassey, तो देयर वाज दिस आइडिया दैट अब कुछ बड़ा होने वाला है, तो 100 साल के बाद there is going to be a reckoning. So these kinds of rumors started playing an important role. Thirdly, rebel proclamations in 1857 repeatedly appealed to all sections of the population irrespective of their caste and creed. Okay. They made an appeal to all sections of the population to unite against their common enemy. So this is valid. Okay. And lastly, the British succeeded in quickly and easily controlling the rebels. Incorrect. So this was the only instance in colonial history of India where Indians resisted British with all their might, and a large number of British soldiers and other Indian sepoys loyal to the British died while trying to defeat the rebels. So resistance was quite stiff, and it took the better part of an year and even longer in certain regions for situations to come back to normal. This is also incorrect. Haji. It may not have been a mass movement, but appeal to kiya na. For example, I may appeal to you to look from things from my point of view. It is up to you to accept my point of view or not. लेकिन my work is to do is to make an appeal. इन्होंने अपील किया, लोगों ने सुना नहीं सुना, that is a different matter. So while it is true that by and large the support base, the social base of the movement was narrow because of the existing fault lines and divisions that existed within Indian society, primarily the caste based division. But it is true that often, routinely, the rebels from Delhi or from other places used to publish ishtihars or used to publish letters appealing for communal harmony, appealing for caste unity, appealing for united resistance against British oppression. ठीक है, तो ये उनका अपील तो जरूर होता ही था. 131. The Azamgarh Proclamation of August 25, 1857 stressed on which one of the following issues? Hindu-Muslim divide, support to English government, return of the Badshahi, or imposition of heavy Jummas or revenue demand. Azamgarh Proclamation was in line with this one. बताओ किसको अपील कर रहे होंगे ये? हिंदू मुस्लिम डिवाइड को एड्रेस करने के लिए, दैट हिंदूज एंड मुस्लिम्स शुड कम टुगेदर एंड रिकॉग्नाइज दैट बहादुर शाह जफर इज देयर यूनिवर्सल रूलर. ठीक है, तो दैट वाज फॉर देम टू कम टुगेदर अंडर मुगल रूल एंड अगेंस्ट ब्रिटिश. तो रिटर्न ऑफ बादशाही तो ऑलरेडी था ही ना, अभी तक तो खत्म किया नहीं गया था. हाँ, वो बात यह है कि दिल्ली के बादशाह की बादशाहत दिल्ली से पालम तक खत्म हो जाती थी, रेस्ट ऑफ इंडिया से पे उसका कोई कंट्रोल नहीं था, बट एटलीस्ट नोशनली ही वाज स्टिल एम्परर, राइट. नंबर 132. Which one of the following statements about ishtihars issued during the revolt of 1857 is correct? They glorified the Muslim rule in India. They glorified the coexistence of different communities under Mughal Empire. They glorified the message of Islam, or they glorified the role of Queen Victoria. B. They glorified the coexistence of different communities under the Mughal Empire. ये तीनों questions एक ही theme से होते हैं. 133. Arrange the following sepoy mutinies under British rule in the correct chronological order. Vellore mutiny, Barrackpore mutiny, Singapore mutiny. 1806. Very good. कॉन्टेक्स्ट भी बता दो क्या है इसका. साउथ में तो था, वेल्लोर तमिलनाडु में है तो साउथ. After the fourth Anglo-Mysore War, Mysore was defeated, Tipu Sultan was killed, and his family members were sent to live at the Vellore court. Further, company ने very recently कुछ यूनिफॉर्म रेगुलेशन चेंजेस किए थे which was considered to be hurtful to the religious sentiments of their sepoys, right? And वो एक पॉलिटिकल रेजिस्टेंस की हवा थी ही बिकॉज ऑफ वेल्लोर्स क्लोज एसोसिएशन विद टीपू सुल्तान एंड हिज फैमिली मेंबर्स वर स्टिल देयर. तो दिस इज व्हाई द वेल्लोर म्यूटनी टुक प्लेस. बैरकपुर म्यूटनी, बैरकपुर है कहाँ? बंगाल में. यहाँ पे म्यूटनी क्यों होता है? अच्छा, कब होता है? 1825. ठीक है, क्या हो रहा था 1825 में? Towards further to the east of Bengal. Were the British fighting any major war or not? The first Anglo-Burma war was going on, and Indian soldiers were being forced to serve again under immensely difficult situations. They were also being mistreated, so they mutinied against the British. Singapore mutiny. कोई मेजर रेवोल्यूशनरी प्लॉट इस समय हुआ? आर यू अवेयर ऑफ एनीथिंग? गदर कॉन्स्पिरेसी हुआ था, राइट? गदर कॉन्स्पिरेसी में आइडिया क्या था? that they are going to bring about a major armed revolt in three major cantonments in the region of Punjab. कहाँ पर? रावलपिंडी, फिरोजपुर एंड लाहौर. यहाँ से एक आर्म्ड रिवोल्ट मतलब म्यूटनी शुरू होगा which is going to spread right from Punjab up to Singapore. Now this plot was discovered beforehand and the British acted. It could not come to fruition. तो गदर कॉन्स्पिरेसी इंडिया में तो फेल हो गया, but the soldiers living in Singapore or stationed in Singapore did not know that the plot had already been discovered. तो उन्होंने क्या किया? They carried out their mutiny. लेकिन उनको आइडिया नहीं था कि इंडिया में सिचुएशन अंडर कंट्रोल है, and so they were all caught. Most of them were executed or transported for life. Correct chronological order? 1, 2, 3. A. One 34. Arrange the following sepoy mutinies under British rule in correct chronological order. Vellore mutiny, Bengal mutiny, mutiny during the Afghan wars. सबसे पहला Bengal mutiny. Who led this mutiny against the British? जिसने बक्सर में जा करके एक गन फैक्ट्री, मुंगेर में जाकर के एक गन फैक्ट्री बनाई, अपना कोट वहां पे ट्रांसफर कर दिया, मीर कासिम. ठीक है, तो मीर कासिम लेड दिस बंगाल म्यूटनी. उसके बाद 1806 वेल्लोर म्यूटनी. एंड फर्स्ट एंग्लो अफगान वॉर कब हुआ? 1839 to 42. So this was also 1839. Correct answer 213. D. 135. Who among the following was bestowed with the title of Sahib-e-Alam Bahadur by Bahadur Shah during the uprising of 1857? The answer is Bakht Khan. ठीक है, who was he? He was the leader of the sepoys who had come to Delhi after mutinying against the British officials in Meerut on the 10th of May. 30th of May को यहाँ पे आकर के दिल्ली इनके कंट्रोल में आ गया था. Now Bahadur Shah Zafar, while he had been proclaimed as the leader of the rebellion by the sepoys, actual in charge was Bakht Khan. He was looking after not only the organization of the rebellion but the civil government of Delhi as well. So for this इनको legitimacy देने के लिए एक टाइटल दे दिया गया, साहिब आलम बहादुर. 136. Which one of the following places did Kunwar Singh, a prominent leader of the revolt of 1857, belong? बिहार. स्पेसिफिकली कहां से? आरा, जगदीशपुर. 137. Who among the following was the leader of the revolution of 1857 in Assam? रिवोल्ट होना चाहिए ये. दो बरुआ हैं. मनीराम लग रहा है, डी लग रहा है. तो ऐसे में पता है ना क्या करना चाहिए? जय माता दी, राइट? आंसर इज ए ओवर हियर. तो दीवान मनीराम या मनीराम दीवान इनको बोला जाता था. एंड इशू क्या था कि he was interested in the British purchasing tea from him. So he owned huge tea plantations in Assam. So हुआ क्या that at this point of time the British were not very interested in procuring tea from Assam. दार्जिलिंग टी इनको पसंद था, मतलब दार्जिलिंग अभी तक सेटअप नहीं हुआ था, असम टी इनको उतना पसंद था नहीं. तो कहाँ से टी प्रोक्योर कर रहे थे ब्रिटिश? चाइना से. टी फ्रॉम चाइना, ओपियम फ्रॉम इंडिया. Now the British rejected his offer of procuring tea for him, so he lost a big opportunity and when revolt took place, he saw it as a golden opportunity to revive the Ahom dynasty, which had become defunct by this point of time. British ने उसको भी capture कर लिया था. So he was discovered, and like all other rebellions, he was rebels. He was also put to death by the British. Okay. Next, the educated middle class in India opposed the revolt of 1857, supported it, remained neutral, or fought against the native rulers. Remained neutral to the revolt of 1857. Why? They neither supported the rebels nor did they support the British. क्यों? हाँ, तो the revolt did not have a progressive objectives जैसे इनका vision था. It was backward looking. It wanted to turn back the clock of time and take India to its medieval feudal past. ठीक है? They were not in support of this. Further, they did not support the British because even though they did not agree with the vision of the rebels, they sympathized with them. Why? Because they realized that the grievances of the rebels are valid, that it was the result of general discontent because of the exploitative nature of British rule. They felt that they should not come out in support of this exploitative regime as well. Therefore, they remained neutral. Next, which of the following group did not participate in the revolt of 1857? Agricultural labor, sahukars, farmers, landlords. Sahukars and landlords. While in some regions, dispossessed landlords did participate, but by and large, landlords remained aloof or they remained extremely loyal to the British. So, correct answer over here is D, 2 and 4. 140. What was or were the object or objects of Queen Victoria's proclamation of 1858? Number 1. To disclaim any intention to annex Indian states. Yes. Why did the British consider this important? Because the policy of rapid expansion and annexation of Indian territories was causing unrest among the princes. They wanted the loyalty of the princes. So they wanted to reassure them that we are not going to annex your territories. 2. To place Indian administration under the British crown. Also correct. So the British think tank, the establishment in Britain, blamed the company for mismanagement, maladministration in India, and felt that if India was directly governed by the crown, governance would be better, resentment would be lower. And thirdly, to regulate the East India Company's trade with India. Was this one of the issues? No. तो ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी का ट्रेड तो बहुत पहले ही खत्म हो चुका था. It had been transformed in India at least into a completely political entity. So there was no question of regulating its trade in India. Correct answer? A, 1 and 2 only. Number 141. In the context of the revolt of 1857, consider the following pairs and identify the correct one. Lucknow, Begum Hazrat Mahal. Yes or no? Bihar, Maulvi Ahmadullah. No. Faizabad, Kunwar Singh. नो, उल्टा होना चाहिए, स्वैप हो गया ये. ठीक है, तो हाउ मेनी आर करेक्टली मैच्ड? ए, ओनली वन पेयर. Number 142. Which of the following statements correctly describe the significance of the revolt of 1857? Number 1. It highlighted the importance of violent struggle for the freedom of the country. No, incorrect. Because it had failed, violent rebellion had failed, future nationalists, are they all going to adopt the approach of violent revolt? No, constitutional methods are going to be used by them, then peaceful mass agitation primarily. Okay? Second, it was a rare event during India's freedom struggle that depicted remarkable Hindu-Muslim unity. This is correct. In fact, this was one of the greatest strengths of the revolt. So, which is the correct answer? B, 2 only. 143. Region and leader match करना है. Delhi, Bakht Khan. Yes. Kanpur, Nana Sahib. Along with him, Tatia Tope and Azimullah. Awadh, Hazrat Mahal. This is also correct. How many are correctly matched? All three. C. Who was the Prime Minister during the revolt of 1857? Churchill, Palmerston, Attlee or Gladstone? Answer is Palmerston. So Churchill was British Prime Minister when? World War II के दौरान 1940 to 1945 and then 1950 to 1955. ठीक है? Attlee was Prime Minister when India became independent. So 45 to 50. Gladstone was also Prime Minister of Britain but in the 1860s. ठीक है? In fact, he was the leader of the opposition when the Great Revolt of 1857 had taken place. And there are a few contemporary observers who have characterized the revolt of 1857 as a national revolt or a war of independence. कौन कौन है ये? सावरकर, ग्लैडस्टन and Benjamin Disraeli. He was also a contemporary of Gladstone and Palmerston. He was also in opposition and he also repeated the same sentiment as Gladstone. And later on, he also went on to become British Prime Minister. In fact, he was the first Jewish Prime Minister of Britain. ठीक है? 1870 में I think he became Prime Minister. तो करेक्ट आंसर क्या हुआ यहाँ पर? Palmerston. 145. The first freedom struggle of 1857 failed because A. There was lack of unity of purpose in the Indian sepoys. Generally, native kings supported the British. British soldiers were better equipped and organized rather than Indians, and all of the above. Answer is D. All of the above. Next question also about failure. Which of the following was the main reasons for the failure of the revolt of 1857? The military superiority of the British. Yes. Rebels did not have a unified program and ideology. Yes. And there was a lack of support from all sections of the society. Yes. Universal support नहीं था ना. There was lack of support from all the sections of the society. वही पूछ रहा है. ठीक है. तो correct answer is C. All of the above. 147. Which one of the following factors was not responsible for the failure of the revolt of 1857? A. Expansion only in a limited region. B. Not getting the support of all sections of the society. C. Killing the Europeans by rebels. And D. Absence of competent leadership. पूछ रहा है, it was not responsible for failure. Expansion to a limited region. Was this a valid reason for failure or not? Yes, it was confined primarily to the middle and lower Ganga Valley, UP, Bihar. All the rest of India remained peaceful. Not getting the support of all sections of society. We've just covered this. This is correct. Absence of competent leadership. Also correct. The rebel leadership, barring a few exceptions, was by and large uninspiring and even reluctant. So, for example, चाहे नाना साहेब हों, चाहे बहादुर शाह जफर हों, they were forced to accept leadership by the sepoys. Correct answer is C. Killing of the Europeans by rebels. Now, killing of the Europeans by rebels is going to play a very important role in how the rebellion progressed and the British attitude towards the Indians following the revolt of 1857. तो क्या इफेक्ट होगा इसका? Because the revolt involved the killing of British soldiers, but also British civilians, including British women. तो अंग्रेज रिवोल्ट में किस एटीट्यूड से आए थे? डिड दे सिंपली वांट टू रिस्टोर पीस एंड ऑर्डर और डिड दे वांट रिवेंज? They came with the idea of obtaining revenge. And after this, what was the general attitude that they adopted towards Indians? Racial discrimination, that Indians by nature are savages. And pictures, cartoons and stories, tales of English women being violated and killed by black Indians, uncouth Indians. This created a sensation and a huge sense of outrage among the British people. So this was used as a propaganda mechanism by the British to dehumanize Indians and to justify their continued exploitation and humiliation of Indians later on. Okay? It is going to play a major role both during and after the revolt, but this is not the only, this is not a valid factor for the failure of the revolt. Clear hai? Next question. Which one of the following territories was not affected by the revolt of 1857? Jhansi, Chittor, Jagdishpur, Lucknow. Answer is Chittor. So Chittor was too far away. It was not affected by the revolt. Which dynasty supported the British the most during the freedom 1857 freedom movement? Scindias, Holkars, Bhosles or Lodhis or Ramgarh? It was the Scindias of Gwalior. तो यहाँ पे हमने एक contradiction देखा between the previous question and this question. क्या? Gwalior was a site of the revolt, but Scindias, the rulers of Gwalior, supported the British. तो ये कैसे हुआ? Now, the kingdom of Jhansi was located just next to Gwalior, and the rebels from Jhansi were being pursued by a British general, Hugh Rose. तो cat and mouse game चल रहा था उनके बीच में. The rebels were following primarily hit and run guerrilla tactics because अगर face to face confrontation होता, the British army was much better equipped, much larger as well. So guerrilla methods were proving quite successful, and what the British started doing was that they started trying to encircle the rebels. Okay? So they called in more and more forces and made the rebels. Rebels were primarily living off their land, so they were following a scorched earth policy. So rebels needed some new location, नया ठिकाना चाहिए था. कहाँ गए? ग्वालियर, just बगल में. They appealed to the Raja, the Scindia Raja of Gwalior, to help them. Now the generals of the Scindia, तो जो उनका general का कोर था, they were also quite supportive of the rebels. तो they were saying कि यार ये अंग्रेजों ने हमारे भी बहुत नुकसान किया है, let us restore our power and restore our rule and independence, let us join hands with the rebels. तो जो सिंधिया लीडर था, रूलर था, he came under pressure from both the rebel side as well as his own soldiers. own soldiers में भी sentiment pro rebellion था, and he said कि हाँ मदद करते हैं, बट आओ पहले बैठ के थोड़ा पानी पियो, थोड़ा ठंडा लो, थोड़ा एसी चलाओ, थोड़ा रेस्ट करो, आईपीएल देखो, चाय पकौड़े खाओ, राइट? तो ही promised them help but always delayed कि नहीं, this is not the right time, अभी weather ठीक नहीं है, बारिश हो गई है, this is not the right time, my soldiers are not prepared, this is not the right time because we are still to gather the required food for our campaign, this is not the right time क्योंकि अभी बारूद आना था दिल्ली से, वो पहुंचा नहीं, एक बार वो आ जाए तो काम करते हैं. तो he kept on delaying and delaying and delaying, और ऐसे आज नहीं कल करते करते 4 महीने निकल गए. By this point of time, Hugh Rose had already amassed a huge force and he came to Gwalior. Gwalior के दहलीज पे पहुंच गया. Maharaja, instead of closing the doors, opened them and welcomed Hugh Rose with open arms. कि आइए अब आप संभाल लीजिए. So the English contingent quickly overwhelmed the rebels and the matter was ended. So answer है Scindias of Gwalior. 150. Regarding the revolt of 1857, which of the following governor generals said that had Shinde and Nizam participated, then the uprising would have been successful? Shinde मतलब Scindias, ठीक है? किसने बोला ये? Dalhousie, Ripon, Mountbatten or Canning? When did the revolt took place, during whose tenure? Canning. So it was Canning who was reacting. Answer is D, Lord Canning. 151. Which one of the following conceptions is true about the revolt of 1857? Indian historians have described it as an Indian mutiny. British historians have described it as a war of independence. It gave a death blow to the system of East India Company's rule in India. And D, it was for the improvement of the administrative machinery in India. Is A correct? No. इनको लिमिटेड म्यूटनी नहीं बताया गया है, जनरल रिवोल्ट, नेशनल वॉर ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंस बोला है इंडियन हिस्टोरियन. ब्रिटिश हिस्टोरियंस हैव ट्राइड टू अंडरमाइन इट. दे डिड नॉट कॉल इट अ वॉर ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंस बट अ सेल्फिश सीपॉय म्यूटनी. It was not for the improvement of the administrative machinery, it was to end British rule in India and restore traditional rule. So correct answer is C. It gave a death blow to the system of companies rule in India. Number 152. Which of the following cannot be considered the outcome of the mutiny of 1857? The administration was taken over by the British Crown. Yes. Formation of various regiments in the Indian Army on the basis of region and caste. Yes. तो कौन सा डॉक्ट्रिन लगाया था इन्होंने? डिवीजन एंड काउंटर पॉइज का. ठीक है. The Governor General came to be called as Viceroy. Yes. And D. More emphasis on implementation of doctrine of lapse. No. In fact, through the Queen's proclamation, the British reassured Indian princes that they are not going to annex their territories for any reason any longer. (153) Indians were assured of many things in the declaration by Queen Victoria in 1858. तो promise कई सारे किए इन्होंने. Which among the following assurances was fulfilled by the British government? तो कौन सा promise इन्होंने कायम रखा और वादा खिलाफी कहाँ पे करी, ये हमको बताना है. Policy of annexation will be abandoned. Was this promise kept or broken? It was broken. After this also, in many areas, the British interfered, such as in Baroda, they annexed it. Then Berar was also taken from the Nizam of Hyderabad. Then when the Strachey Commission came in, it said that one of the reasons for frequent famines is that because the regions of India which are affected by famine are usually isolated from other regions, right? तो वहाँ पे आसानी से और तेजी से रसद नहीं पहुँच पाती है, rations do not reach over there, and food shortages take on a critical threat that results in mass deaths due to food shortage. ठीक है. तो what was the solution for this? Expand the railways. तो रेलवे नेटवर्क को एक्सपैंड करिए. अब रेलवे नेटवर्क ऐसा तो है नहीं कि मान लीजिए कि ब्रिटिश इंडियन टेरिटरी से जा रहा है तो जमीन के ऊपर चलेगा और फिर उसके बाद प्रिंसली स्टेट में जा रहा है तो आसमान में उड़ने लग जाएगा, ऐसा होगा नहीं. सो इट विल हैव टू, मतलब लिनियर सिस्टम होता है, तो इट विल हैव टू पास थ्रू द टेरिटरी. How did the British get the land? They applied the principle of eminent domain. Eminent domain क्या होता है? That land सरकार का है सारा का सारा. It is only that the British are or the state is allowing the owner of the land to continue using it. So they used eminent domain and interfered over there also. So this is also not correct. Then later on, बटलर कमिटी होता है, ऑल इंडिया फेडरेशन के क्रिएशन की बात होती है, पार्टिसिपेशन ऑफ प्रिंसली स्टेट्स इन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल असेंबली, दिस इज आल्सो प्रोवाइडेड फॉर बाय द कैबिनेट मिशन प्लान. होता है कि नहीं? तो देयर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल स्टेटस में वहां पे स्टेटस को नहीं मेंटेन किया जाएगा. इक्वल ट्रीटमेंट वुड बी गिवन टू ऑल सब्जेक्ट्स इंडियंस एंड यूरोपियंस. सवाल नहीं उठता है इसका तो, राइट. एंड सो आंसर वुड बी देयर वुड बी नो इंटरफेरेंस इन द सोशल एंड रिलीजियस बिलीफ्स ऑफ इंडियंस. तो सॉरी, हाँ ये भी गलत होगा. द करेक्ट वन वुड बी ए. Policy of annexation was abandoned. Also this was also not fulfilled by them to the extent of the letter, but सबसे ज्यादा इसमें से यही वाला fulfill किया गया promise. Clear? 154. The statement the so-called first national war of independence was neither the first nor national nor a war of independence. किस हिस्टोरियन ने दिया ये? आरसी मजूमदार ने. वीडी सावरकर ने क्या बोला? इट वॉज द फर्स्ट वॉर ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंस. तो आरसी मजूमदार ने इन रिस्पॉन्स बोला कि ना ये पहला है, इसके पहले भी कई सारी म्यूटनीज हो चुकी हैं, कई सारे रेबेलिंग्स हो चुके हैं. नॉर इज इट नेशनल, तो इट वॉज लिमिटेड, and nor was it a war of independence, because independence, the idea is not simply political independence but also socio-economic independence of the ordinary people. The revolt was backward looking and restorative in character rather than progressive and reformist in character. वो real independence नहीं ला सकता. So therefore R.C. Majumdar said that it is neither the first nor national nor war of independence. The first Indian to write in an Indian language on the causes of the uprising of 1857 was Sir, Sayyid Ahmad Khan, VD Savarkar, Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, or none of the above? Write in Indian language on the causes of the uprising of 1857. किताब का नाम ये है, इसका लिटरल ट्रांसलेशन है कॉजेज ऑफ द रिवोल्ट ऑफ इंडिया, राइट? पब्लिश्ड बाय होम? उर्दू में लिखी हुई है, आंसर इज सैयद अहमद खान. What was Sayyid Ahmad Khan's intention behind the publication of this book? अंग्रेजों ने who had they blamed primarily for the revolt of 1857? Muslims of India had been blamed primarily. So they said that the leader of the revolt was a Muslim. Many of the sepoys who had participated, the other leaders, they were all Muslims. Wahhabis ने भी बहुत ज़्यादा participate किया था revolt में. And Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan wanted to dispel the idea that only Muslims were culpable. तो साथ में इन्होंने क्या बोला कि भाई other people were also involved and only Muslims should not be blamed. Why do you think he did this? To show the general loyalty that Muslims have towards British rule presently, and this was because he wanted British support to see his educational mission succeed. Okay? So that is why he had written this book. Next question, 156. Name of book, name of author. 1857, Civil Rebellion in the Indian Mutinies, 1857 to 59. Sepoy Mutiny and the Revolt of 1857, and Awadh in Revolt, 1857 to 1858. Name of authors, S.N. Sen, R.C. Majumdar, S.B. Chaudhary, रुद्रांशु मुखर्जी. थोड़ा टफ सवाल है, मैं बता देता हूँ इस तरह से, ठीक है? 1857 written by S.N. Sen. Civil Rebellion in the Indian Mutinies, S.B. Chaudhary. Sepoy Mutiny and the Revolt of 1857, R.C. Majumdar. And Awadh and Revolt 1857 to 58, रुद्रांशु मुखर्जी. Now, सबसे पहले Indian scholars who had started to write about the revolt of 1857 were national movement leaders or important personalities while the British were still ruling in India, right? तो किसने सबसे पहले लिखा? सैयद अहमद खान ने. फिर सावरकर ने लिखा. एंड सावरकर ने क्या एटीट्यूड दिया टुवर्ड्स द रिवोल्ट? That it was the first war of independence. Now, was Savarkar aligned with the Congress ideology or did he stand against the Congress ideology? He stood against the Congress ideology. Further, Savarkar had also linked the revolt of 1857 to his idea of Hindutva. So that notion the Congress after independence wanted to dispel. तो ये कमीशन करेगा eminent historians after 100 years of the revolt of 1857 to reinterpret the revolt of 1857. तो ये पहली जो तीन किताबें हैं, they are going to be written during that period by S.N. Sen, R.C. Majumdar and S.B. Chaudhary. Then 50 years more went on. तो 21st century में दोबारा से reinterpretation हो रहा है, and focus किसके ऊपर है? Awadh in revolt or different regions in revolt, or the role played by women during the revolt, role played by untouchables during the revolt, role played by traders during the revolt, role played by zamindars during the revolt, role played by tribals during the revolt, etc. तो अब subaltern perspective से history को interpret किया जा रहा है, and this idea रुद्रांशु मुखर्जी का subaltern perspective दिखाता है, ठीक है? तो करेक्ट आंसर क्या हो गया? 1, 3, 2, 4. दिस इज डी. नेक्स्ट theme is socio-religious reformers or socio-religious reforms. Number 157. Along with David Hare and Alexander Duff, who out of the following established Hindu college at Calcutta? Answer is राजा राम मोहन रॉय। कब स्टैब्लिश हुआ ये? 1817। क्विकली आफ्टर दिस इट बिकेम इन्वॉल्व इन अ मेजर कंट्रोवर्सी। यहाँ पे ग्रुप बना स्टूडेंट्स का, लेड बाय अ रेडिकल प्रोफेसर डेरोजियंस, यंग बंगाल मूवमेंट। ठीक है, अच्छा। व्हाट डिड राजा राम मोहन रॉय टीच एट द हिंदू कॉलेज? अंग्रेजी और इतिहास। ठीक है, इंग्लिश एंड हिस्ट्री। इन्होंने अपना कोई खुद का कॉलेज स्टैब्लिश किया? कौन सा? वेदांत कॉलेज। वेयर? वेयर? Calcutta in 1825. Here he introduced two new subjects. कौन कौन से? मैकेनिक्स एंड वोल्टेयर्स फिलोसफी। ठीक है, वो जो फ्रेंच एनलाइटनमेंट एज थिंकर था वोल्टेयर, उसका फिलोसफी एंड मैकेनिक्स। सो ही यूज्ड टू कंडक्ट लेक्चर्स एट द वेदांता कॉलेज ऑन these two new subjects. Next question: in which of the following statements is are correct regarding the Brahmo Samaj? Number 1, it opposed idolatry. Was it in favor of idol worship or against it? Against it. Why? अरे मोनोथियज्म तो ठीक है, मोनोथियज्म आपका आइडल वर्शिप के साथ भी हो सकता है, बट इट वाज डिस्क्रिमिनेटरी इन नेचर. आइडल वर्शिप कॉज्ड discrimination. That was the idea. Next, it denied the need for a priestly class for interpreting the religious texts. Also correct. And thirdly, it popularized the idea that doctrine that Vedas are infallible. Yes or no? No. So it emphasized upon the infallibility of logic rather than the Vedas. ठीक है, so this is incorrect. Correct answer B, 1 and 2 only. अगला सवाल नंबर 159. Consider the following statements. Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar founded the Bethune School at Calcutta with the main aim of encouraging the education of women. Yes, along with J.E.D. Bethune, he founded the Bethune School at Calcutta for women in 1849. Number 2, Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay was the first graduate of the Calcutta University. Yes, इनके साथ एक और ग्रेजुएट थे, Jadunath Bose. तो Bankim Chandra Chatterjee and Jadunath Bose, these were the earliest graduates from the Calcutta University, graduating in 1862. ठीक है, अच्छा. फर्स्ट फीमेल ग्रेजुएट ऑफ द कैलकाटा यूनिवर्सिटी, कादम्बनी गांगुली. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट, केशव चंद्र सेन्स कैंपेन अगेंस्ट सती लेड टू द इनैक्टमेंट ऑफ अ लॉ टू बैन सती बाय द गवर्नर जनरल. करेक्ट और इनकरेक्ट? Incorrect. Was Keshav Chandra Sen the one involved in petitioning the Governor General to ban sati? राजा राम मोहन रॉय. किस गवर्नर जनरल ने बैन किया? बेंटिंग ने. तो which of these statements is correct? B, 1 and 2 only. Next statement. Who among the following wrote the book Bahuvivah? Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. What is the theme of this book? Condemnation of multiple marriages, polygamy. ठीक है. In the field of social reforms, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar is most well known for the Hindu Widow Remarriage Act. So he also struggled or worked for the cause of widow remarriage. Did he write any book on that theme? कौन सा? विधवा विवाह. ठीक है, स्पेलिंग हो सकता है थोड़ा इनएक्यूरेट हो, वो आप लोग देख लीजिएगा. क्लियर है? तो ईश्वर चंद्र विद्यासागर. नेक्स्ट, 161. Who among the following started the newspaper Shom Prakash? Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Any other contributions that he made in the field of social reform or in the field of promoting literacy or education? या बंगाली प्राइमर इन्होंने इंट्रोड्यूस किया था, कॉल्ड दी बोर्नो परिचय। ठीक है, तो वर्ण का परिचय करवाना, बोर्नो परिचय, that was introduced by him as a Bengali primer that is still used today for teaching young children Bengali, right? Anything else? He was also a pioneer of women's education, right? Instrumental in establishment of which school? The Bethune school, where he was the first secretary of that school as well. ये सब ईश्वर चंद्र विद्यासागर। विद्यासागर इनका नाम था या इनको लोग बुलाते थे? टाइटल था। वाई? विद्या का सागर है, ओशन ऑफ नॉलेज। इन विच फील्ड was he an expert? In both linguistics and philosophy. He, as principal of the Sanskrit college at Banaras, reinvigorated that institution. ठीक है, under him the Sanskrit college of Banaras was also open to students from lower caste. Initially it was open only to the upper castes. He also wrote original works of philosophy commenting upon the Vedas. ठीक है, so he was a contemporary of social reformers such as Debendranath Tagore, Swami Dayanand Saraswati, etc. And he was an original thinker as well. तो कई इन्होंने works उसके ऊपर भी लिखे थे। ठीक है, and he used to argue in favor of widow remarriage on the basis of what? That it is the moral thing to do, or it is an inherent part of Indian culture. Inherent part of Indian culture. And in this regard, he was the same as both Raja Ram Mohan Roy as well as Swami Dayanand Saraswati. दोनों क्या बोलते थे? That it was never the custom to prevent widow remarriage. It was never the custom to do sati. It was never the custom of Indians to deny education or inheritance to women. And what did they all point to? The Vedas. कि वेदास में कहीं ऐसा mentioned ही नहीं है that all these practices are corruptions, right? So he also came in that same bracket. Is this clear? Now coming to the next question, 162. Consider these statements. Arya Samaj was founded in 1835. Yes or no? No. 1875. Lala Lajpat Rai opposed the appeal of Arya Samaj to the authority of the Vedas in support of its social reform program. Also no, he was an Arya Samaji. Why would he appeal the Arya Samaj? ठीक है, or oppose the Arya Samaj? Number 3, Keshav Chandra Sen. Under Keshav Chandra Sen, the Brahmo Samaj campaigned for women's education. Yes, so he was progressive and considered to be quite radical. So Brahmo Samaj became even more progressive under him. Vinoba Bhave founded the Sarvodaya Samaj to work among refugees. Yes, based on Gandhian idea of Sarvodaya and trusteeship. So correct answer 3 and 4. Who among the following was a proponent of Fabianism as a movement? Annie Besant, A.O. Hume, Michael Madhusudan Dutt or R. Pame Dutt? Answer is Annie Besant. Fabianism क्या होता है? It is a form of socialism. Now socialism जब हम सोचते हैं तो किसका चेहरा आता है? Which historical personality of मार्क्स का चेहरा? लेकिन मार्क्स का जो सोशलिज्म था वो किस तरह का था? Revolutionary socialism था. It called for immediate and structural changes, right? However, this would be very very disruptive. तो एक दूसरा stream of socialism था known as Fabian socialism. Its approach was not revolutionary but democratic in nature. It wanted to remain constitutional and it wanted to use the state to bring about social reforms or reforms in the interest of the working classes. So this was democratic. इंक्रीमेंटल सोशलिज्म, ठीक है। फेबियनिज्म किसके ऊपर नाम रखा गया है? फेबियन नाम होगा किसी थिंकर का? नहीं, इट इज नेम्ड आफ्टर अ रोमन जनरल who was active during the second Carthaginian war. सेकेंड Carthaginian war कब हुआ? सेकेंड प्यूनिक वॉर, पहली बार सुन रहे हो? तो थर्ड सेंचुरी BC में, between whom? Between the Republic of Rome and the Republic of Carthage, right? Carthage was, the people of Carthage were called both Carthaginians as well as Phoenicians. तो ये जो वॉर है इसको Carthaginian वॉर भी बोलते हैं, Phoenician वॉर भी बोलते हैं. Now in the first Punic war or the first Carthaginian war, Rome had defeated Carthage, imposed a very harsh treaty upon it. तो अब Carthage में क्या sentiment emerge हुआ? बदला लेना है. And the face of that vengeance was a feared Carthaginian general. आपने नाम सुना होगा, पहली बार उसने करिश्मा किया था. That with about 60,000 soldiers, हाथी घोड़े पालकी सब कुछ लेकर के Alps क्रॉस कर गया. He came from Spain, crossed the Alps, came into Italy. कौन था ये? सबसे पहली बार किसने किया? बाद में भी कई लोगों ने किया. फॉर एग्जाम्पल नेपोलियन, बट ही डिड दिस इन द 3rd century BC. Hannibal, and he started to smash one legion of Rome after the other. तो जो भी रोमन जनरल इसके सामने जाता, they would all be defeated, their armies would be scattered, and one by one he started to conquer all the territories outside Rome. Now ऐसे में a new general emerged with a new strategy. His name was Fabius. इसने क्या बोला? That Hannibal is only able to defeat us because we fight him. He won't be able to defeat us if we don't fight him. So delay karo, right? So that was the idea. He will be forced to live off the land, and because he is going to not be allowed to ransack our cities, मतलब the city of Rome, तो ये क्या करेगा? बाकी लोगों को अटैक करेगा. He is going to grow unpopular, and his popular support base is going to erode within Italy, and he is finally going to have to go back. And exactly this happened also. तो 20 years के लिए कैंपेन चला, but without any war, and finally Hannibal had to return. तो एल्प्स के थ्रू आया था, जहाज के थ्रू वापस कार्थेज चला गया. क्लियर है? And it is after him that this strategy is called Fabian strategy. Delay karo, remain patient. That is the idea over here. Next, 164. Annie Besant was, number 1, responsible for starting the Home Rule movement. Number 2, the founder of the Theosophical Society. Number 3, once the president of the Congress. 1 and 3. 2 is incorrect. Who is the founder of the Theosophical Society? Olcott and Blavatsky. Where was it founded? न्यूयॉर्क में, ठीक है. When? 1879. Its headquarters was established in Adyar near Madras in 1883. तो बना न्यूयॉर्क में, आए यहाँ पर, ठीक है. Who among the following was associated as secretary with the Hindu female school, which later came to be known as the Bethune Female School? Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Next, the Vittal Vidwansak, the first monthly journal to have the untouchable people as its target audience, was published by Gopal Baba Walankar. तो इन दी दलित मूवमेंट इन महाराष्ट्र दो बड़े नाम हैं. कौन कौन? सबसे पहले ज्योतिबा फूले, और बाद में 20th सेंचुरी में डॉक्टर अंबेडकर. यार नहीं सुनना? अच्छा. बीच में द कॉमन लिंक इज गोपाल बाबा वलांकर. ही वॉज ऑल्सो अ प्रोडक्ट ऑफ द सत्यशोधक समाज. एंड ये जितनी भी राइटिंग्स होंगी इनके इस मंथली में, विच लैंग्वेज? मराठी लैंग्वेज, लोकल लैंग्वेज, ठीक है. Number 167. In the context of Indian history, the Rakhambai case of 1884 revolved around number 1. Women's right to gain education, age of consent, or restitution of conjugal rights. Which of them? 2 and 3 only. Over here, the answer is 2 and 3 only. So, what was the case? चाइल्ड मैरिज का केस था. रकमबाई वाज मैरिड व्हेन शी वाज स्टिल अ माइनर टू समबडी एल्स. मतलब आई डोंट रिमेंबर द नेम ऑफ द मैन. कुछ दादोबा करके आई थिंक नाम था उसका, राइट. एंड व्हाट हैपेंड इज दैट व्हेन शी केम ऑफ एज, हर हस्बैंड said that you come start living with me, start sleeping with me, we'll make children etc. जो भी होता है, we'll do that. She said कि नहीं मुझे पढ़ना है, I'm not going to come. Further, अच्छा हस्बैंड ने क्या किया कि he knocked the door of the court कि इंसाफ दिलाइए, she is my legally wedded wife, she is refusing to stay with me. तो क्वेश्चन उठा, restitution of conjugal rights shall it be applicable in civil unions, मतलब मैरिज में अप्लाई होना चाहिए या फिर लीगल सेपरेशन भी अलाउड होना चाहिए. ठीक है. सेकेंडली, especially the case was that of a child marriage. Now because the girl was married before she had attained maturity, she was not in a position to give her informed consent. So should the rights of the husband be accepted or rejected during this period? तो इनिशियली जो बॉम्बे हाई कोर्ट है उसने किसके फेवर में डिसीजन दिया? रकमबाई और हस्बैंड? हस्बैंड के फेवर में. a number of articles were published, a huge हल्ला गुल्ला took place and मैटर पहुंच गया कहां? इंग्लैंड प्रिवी काउंसिल. ठीक है. एंड प्रिवी काउंसिल में क्या हुआ? रकमबाई's केस was approved. तो क्वीन विक्टोरिया पर्सनली intervened in order to rule in favor of रकमबाई. रकमबाई following this went to England and got a medical degree as well. So she, like Kadambini Ganguly, was one of the earliest trained doctors. And इंडिया में आकर के इन्होंने काफी प्रैक्टिस भी किया उसके बाद. लेकिन is the issue of women's of right to gain education involved directly with this act, or was it simply an incidental issue associated with this development? Incidental issue. Correct answer is 2 and 3 only. Number 168. Movement organization and leader. All India Anti-Untouchability League, Mahatma Gandhi. Yes or no? Yes. This is correct. It was later renamed as the Harijan Sevak Sangh. ठीक है. All India Kisan Sabhas, Swami Sahajanand Saraswati. Yes. And self-respect movement, E.V. Ramaswamy Nayakar. This is also correct. How many are correctly matched? All. 1, 2 and 3. (169) The Satyashodhak Samaj organized what? An anti-caste movement in Maharashtra. Who founded it? ज्योतिबा फूले. फिल्म भी आने वाली है, ट्रेलर देखा फूले का? पढ़ भी लिया करो कभी, यही सब काम करते हैं. Number 170. Consider the following: Calcutta Unitarian Committee, Tabernacle of New Dispensation, Indian Reform Association. Keshav Chandra Sen is associated with the establishment of which of the above? Was he the founder of the Calcutta Unitarian Committee or not? This was founded by Raja Ram Mohan Roy. ठीक है. What was the context? मीटिंग होगी शाम को? नहीं, मिल बैठेंगे 3 यार, नहीं हो रहा है यहाँ पर. What is happening is that Raja Ram Mohan Roy was engaged in a bitter debate with the Catholic missionaries. So Catholic missionaries were attacking the Hindu religion, defaming the Hindu religion, defaming the practices etc. कि सती करते हैं, अनटचेबिलिटी प्रैक्टिस करते हैं, आइडल वर्शिप करते हैं, कास्ट बेस्ड डिस्क्रिमिनेशन है. तो Raja Ram Mohan Roy gave a riposte through which book? द प्रीसेप्ट्स ऑफ जीसस, राइट। एंड प्रीसेप्ट्स ऑफ जीसस में उन्होंने क्रिटिसाइज क्या किया है? the idea that Jesus was himself the son of God. वो ऐसा नहीं है. He said that Jesus was simply a messenger of God. The idea that divinity rests in the Holy Trinity, the Father, God, the Son, Jesus, and the ephemeral, ethereal connection between the two, the Holy Spirit. तो Holy Trinity के ऊपर कैथोलिसिज्म बेस्ड है. उन्होंने इसको डिनाई किया है. ही सेज इन द प्रीसेप्ट्स ऑफ जीसस की आइडिया कि जीसस परफॉर्म सेवरल मिरेकल्स एटसेट्रा, ऑल दिस इज होकस पोकस, बकवास है. एंड कैथलिक्स आल्सो परफॉर्म मेनी रिचुअल्स which are discriminatory, which are exploitative in nature. Rituals such as confession, communion, baptism, etc. And this is exactly the same thing जिसको कौन बोल रहा था? Protestants such as Martin Luther or John Calvin, etc. This is exactly what they were saying about the Catholic Church, and therefore they had come up with the idea that God is one and he is supreme, that divinity is not divisible, that it is unitary. ठीक है. तो यूनिटेरियन जो आइडियोलॉजी है वो कौन सा आइडियोलॉजी है? प्रोटेस्टेंट आइडियोलॉजी है. एंड he along with some Protestant Anglo-Indians set up the Calcutta Unitarian Committee. एग्जैक्ट ईयर मुझे याद नहीं आ रहा है, आई थिंक 1824 या 25 ऐसे होना चाहिए. ठीक है. Tabernacle of New Dispensation, (1868). Indian Reform Association, राजा राम मोहन रॉय यहाँ पे इन्वॉल्व हो सकते हैं? नहीं. इस समय ब्रह्मो समाज में डोमिनेंट फिगर कौन था? केशव चंद्र सेन, राइट. Tabernacle of New Dispensation was the new temple or church of his new religion that he was trying to introduce. कौन क्या बोलते थे उसको? न्यू डिस्पेंसेशन को नव विधान. And Indian Reform Association at Brahmo Samaj till this point of time, till Devendranath Tagore was the Acharya, was not very vocal about the need for social reform. Yes, it agreed with the idea of social reform, लेकिन radically उसको push नहीं कर रहा था. तो it would not openly oppose child marriage, it would not openly oppose denial of education to girls. But केशव चंद्र सेन के बारे में यू रिमेंबर, ही वाज अ मोर रेडिकल प्रोग्रेसिव. तो उन्होंने इंडियन रिफॉर्म एसोसिएशन भी एस्टैब्लिश किया. दिस इज आल्सो करेक्ट. करेक्ट आंसर इज बी, 2 and 3. वी हैव कवर्ड द क्वेश्चंस अप टू 170. आगे कल करते हैं. ठीक है. 5 o'clock यू गाइस हैव अनदर क्लास. ऑनलाइन स्टूडेंट्स, आई विल आल्सो बी सीइंग यू टुमारो. थैंक यू फॉर योर टाइम एंड पेशेंस.